Welcome back, you analytical practitioners of the dark arts, to yet another exciting day of watching some Netrunner on Jinteki.net. It is March 8th of the year 2020, still in the same most wanted list of 3.4b, and it is Daylight Savings Day. So I've lost an hour. Curse you. Oh gosh, I don't remember. Who was it? Benjamin Franklin? Who invented Daylight Savings Day? Curse you, old white dude who has stolen, plundered an hour from my day. Oh well, I suppose I'll get it back in the fall. Let's go into Jinteki and see what wondrous Netrunner games we can watch today. Courtesy, of course, of everyone playing on the portal. So our first game is the Outfit versus Quetzal. Been quite a while since I've seen Quetzal. I believe that's how you pronounce that. It's not Quetzal, it's Quetzal, right? Well, at any rate. Now, and I don't have the sound. Yes, every time, I know. Every time the sound is wrong. Alright. So Quetzal versus... Or is it Quetzal? No, I'm going to go with Quetzal. Quetzal versus the Outfit. The Outfit of going to be really focused on gaining bad publicity in order to gain that extra 3 credits. Doesn't sound like a lot, but if you can make the bad publicity work for you, then it is just an additional 3 credits on top of doing what you wanted to do anyway. Quetzal... It is Quetzal, isn't it? Gosh darn it, I instinctively said Quetzal. Hold on. We'll ask Google. Google, how do you pronounce this? How to pronounce Quetzal?
Quetzal.
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 Okay, it's Quetzal. Anyway. Quetzal installs Eater. That's going to be the AI breaker that just breaks through everything but replaces accesses with nothing, where you can access 0 cards for the remainder of the run. That's not a replacement. Mining Accident has been played, and that's a bad pub given to the Outfit. Second bad pub coming from Hostile Takeover. They have a third bad pub. I'm not sure where they got that. Where did they take the third bad pub? Oh, from Too Big to Fail. It is currently the runner's turn. They're deciding what to do. Click for a credit, and then because I can, if successful when you run a remote server, you just shuffle everything back into R&D. You don't access, you don't do anything fancy like that. It's almost like Quetzal's testing. No, they're not testing the Outfit. They're not testing Wayland. They're doing this because it doesn't matter now if they access 0 cards with Eater. Because I can still forces the shuffle. So their interest is never to access the cards in the first place. Another bad pub goes over to Quetzal, but she's unable to use it for the run. Bad pub is given to the runner at the initiation of the run, not during. And a Bulwark, very high strength barrier res that gives the corp a bad pub when they res it. It trashes a program that has 2 hard end the run subs that also pay 2 credits back to the user, which is a bit strange. The 2 credits back to the user, I suppose, offsetting the cost of Bulwark if you use it to end the run, if the runner decides not to break it. Sort of an odd addendum to the end the run. It also makes Apex incredibly sad, because Apex cannot break this ice with Endless Hunger. Another reason why Endless Hunger should have just read break any subroutine that has the words, the phrase end the run in it. Quetzal going to go ahead and Eater that piece of ice, continuing on through. How much money did they have to spend to do that? Oh, right. Bulwark also has that weird anti-AI. It's a very strange piece of ice. It does a lot of things. It's anti-AI because the corp gains 2 credits on encounter if there is an AI installed. The Quetzal goes down to 3 credits. What did she start the turn with? Not very much. She did Queen's Gambit. Queen's Gambit? I thought that was removed. We must be playing in a freestyle format here. Quetzal herself is lunar. Now the Corp, in response to using border control to end the run on the Eater because I can run on the remote, does not score this 3 advance card in the remote. Instead, well, I'm frankly not sure what they did. They overwrote a card in the server and installed a card in server 4 and just drew a card. And that card is Rashida, so the triple advance card in the remote is not an agenda. Previously, it passed over to Quetzal, who installed a Poemu and didn't do much else but draw. Rashida giving the Corp those 3 cards plus the mandatory draw and the 3 credits. Corp's going to install a new card in the server, draw a card, and install another piece of ice on the remote, having lost the border control, using it to end the run on Quetzal's because I can run. The outfit's sitting at a lot of bad pub already in the game. 4 bad pub. Interestingly, the interaction between Mining Accident and the outfit is, it reads, lose 2 credits, gain a bad pub, the Corp gains 3 credits. Kind of a neat little interaction with Mining Accident. Quetzal still seems to want to give the Corp bad publicity, and the outfit is more than happy to take it. You have to wonder, who's getting the better arrangement of this deal? Who's getting the better end of the deal? The outfit reveals that the La Costa grid was the card in their server with those advancement tokens on it. How did La Costa grid get... Oh, of course. That's the piece that I was missing. It was Queen's Gambited. That's how there were advancement tokens on La Costa. Because it's not a card in rotation, I'll go ahead and read the text on Queen's Gambit. It's a 0-cost event that costs an additional click to play. The runner places 3 advancement tokens on an unresed card in a remote server, and you gain 2 credits for each advancement token placed. You cannot access that card this turn, but it doesn't matter because I can, we'll just shuffle it back in. That's a nice... I can definitely see the synergy here. There's a nice interaction between these 2 cards. I'm just confused because I thought Queen's Gambit was removed from game. Let's see if I can find it on Netrunner DB. It looks like it was added back into the system core. Oh. Well, that's... okay. I like that, because Queen's Gambit was a fun card. I'm glad they added it back in. Never mind. It's back into the system core, the 2019 system core. So this is still a legal game. This is a legal deck. And you can definitely see the synergy with Eater, Because I Can, and Queen's Gambit, all interacting in ways that prevent the runner from accessing cards, but it doesn't matter because I Can just shuffles it back into R&D anyway. Anyway, catching back up, Broad Daylight was scored by the outfit, gaining 2 more bad publicity from Broad Daylight, which puts 6 tokens on this agenda, allowing the Corp to do a total of 12 meat damage over the course of 6 turns, should they choose to spend that click and hosted agenda counter to do so. I believe they can only use that once per turn. Yeah, once per turn. An interesting situation. You can now see why the outfit wanted to take those bad publicity points, because they wanted that extra ability to threaten meat damage. Going over to the outfit does use that Broad Daylight ability after a Shore Gamble and placing a new card in the remote. Quetzal, on the other hand, has a Boomerang targeting the Bulwark. But you have to think, is that useful? You would assume that Boomerang's targets would be to hit the both of the and the run subroutines. I suppose, because it's the last ice on the server, she could just let Bulwark trash a program, trash Eater, and then still get into the server. The outfit double advances the card in the remote, triple advances the card in the remote, and scores an Atlas counter, an Atlas Project Atlas with a counter. I understand why Quetzal isn't interacting with the board state, but she's giving the Corp far too much room. Breathing room, that is. Which is just allowing the outfit to do everything they want. Quetzal now did lose 2 cards from meat damage. Perhaps she was relying on that Queen's Gambit to earn some of her economy back. She also lost her killer. Is that what this is? Yes, Odore. Utai means sing or song or something like that. Odore must mean something else in Japanese. Let's look that up real quick. It means to dance. Applicable due to the picture. So sing, dance. Maybe they'll release another one later. Or perhaps they already have. No, because the next one would be a barrier breaker. Who cares? The runner draws a card, gets 2 credits, and plays a sure gamble, getting that econ that they so desperately need. Unfortunately, the game's probably already over. We see an install of a CityWorks project, followed up by a dedication ceremony, placing 3 more agenda tokens, advancement tokens on that CityWorks project, and the 3rd click is going to be the last insult to injury, the Argus crackdown, forcing another 2 meat damage on the runner, should they run this remote. I wonder, do you think it would have been better just to use Broad Daylight's ability to deal 2 meat damage to the runner outright, instead of using Argus crackdown? Wouldn't the effect just be the same, except you would potentially hit 2 cards that the runner wanted to use that they had kept in hand preemptively? Otherwise, you give them the chance to play those cards and then take the meat damage. It's probably already over, though, because, yeah, I don't know why Quetzal's even trying to run this. She's using Surfer to move 1 Bulwark with another, and then she's going to break the singular Bulwark, but it doesn't really matter because CityWorks Project is going to deal 5 damage on access, and Quetzal doesn't have 5 cards in hand. Even if her plan is to... Well, hang on, that might actually be her plan. Because of Argus Crackdown, her plan might be... She might have a couple same old things... Or not same old things, was it? I've had worses in hand. Her hope is that Argus Crackdown will hit one of those 2 cards. It doesn't. It hits Fear the Masses and Crypt. So, strange choices coming out of Quetzal's deck. Fear the Masses and Crypt. Okay, so it's a Fear the Masses deck? Regardless, if Quetzal had I've had worses in hand, they weren't triggered, she wasn't able to get into the server, she wasn't able to steal CityWorks. The Kayambe grid allowing... I never mentioned... Oh, this isn't Kayambe. Sorry, Lacosta grid. That's the wrong word. Lacosta grid. I never mentioned this, but allows a token to be placed on a card, which helped advance some of these cards. But this game was never even remotely contestable by Quetzal. Partially you have to think her strategy is either too complicated or she just didn't get it online. So let's start with the good of Quetzal's strategy. Quetzal, I loved the interaction between Queen's Gambit, Because I Can, and Eater. That seems really smart. Now, this does appear to be a Fear the Masses deck, so that means there are 6 cards somewhere in Quetzal's deck that are Fear the Masses. So her idea was to eater through into R&D and mill the corp out. That's respectable, but in order to do that, you need to draw through your entire deck very quickly. And the reason for that is because Fear the Masses is a card that's really only good, well, I shouldn't say only good, but it's at its best when you have all 6 copies in hand, right? Or something very similar to that. 5 or 6 is generally what you want, but in order to do that, you need to reliably be able to draw through your entire deck. And here is where I see the first problem with Quetzal's deck. There's no draw in any of her discard. And you might say, well, she didn't draw her draw, but we've gotten to see at least 13 cards in her deck. So about 25% of her deck, and we haven't seen any draw. And we see Crypt. Crypt is really the head scratcher. Crypt is, you essentially run Archives 3 times, and then you can trash Crypt and look for a virus program? What virus program would be so useful to this strategy that she would need to not only run Archives 3 times, but also get a virus card out of her stack? This seems anti-synergistic with the whole Eater plan, because with the whole Fear the Masses plan, because if you play Fear the Masses, you want to draw through the entire deck. If you've drawn through the entire deck, you don't need to use Crypt to search through your stack for something, in addition to the fact that you would have had to have run Archives 3 times, plus a click to play Crypt, plus a click to use Crypt. Crypt seems really bad in this deck. Also, the Boomerang, I'm not going to say that Boomerang's a bad card to just throw in a deck willy-nilly, because it is a pretty decent card in general, but I'm not sure that Boomerang is specifically necessary in this deck, especially because it's, like, imagine if this Boomerang was instead an Earthrise Hotel, something to help Quetzal draw into those cards, draw into those Fear the Masses that she needs. Or if Boomerang was even a Moshing, or is Inject still legal? I think Inject is still legal because it's a Lunar, but Moshing is clearly like the replacement for Inject. So yeah, in general, I like some of the synergies of this deck, but the mining accidents are also a head scratcher. I think the problem is Quetzal has like 2 different, and I'm sorry, I know I'm belaboring all of this and taking a lot of time to analyze it, but it's because I'm curious. Like, is there a strategy here that's useful? Is there something new? Because I didn't consider this 3-card interaction here, which I did enjoy, and I want to see if there's, analyze to see if there's anything better, but especially against the outfit, I don't know if you use these mining accidents. And I think probably her goal was to use mining accident bad publicity money to Eater once or twice a turn, but that's the other problem. Mining accident gets better if you make multiple runs. But when is she making multiple runs in one turn? She's probably only running once per turn to do some of her shenanigans here, which means that the mining accident would require 4 turns to pay off. 3 if you don't count the run that was used to initiate it, because it's costing you 2 credits and a click to play, right? So it's going to take 3 turns before it pays for itself, if you're only using that bad publicity once per turn. It's not a good card unless the game goes on for a very long time, or if you're making multiple runs in one turn. Then it's amazing. So I think mining accident slows this strategy down, and she didn't have any econ. Yeah, I think Crypt could have been liberated accounts. I think she just needs to pick a strategy, right? She needs to pick Fear the Masses. This either needs to be a Fear the Masses deck or a weird replacement shenanigans deck. And maybe that's a bit harsh because perhaps Fear the Masses is the last endgame plan. Perhaps it isn't a rush into drawing all of the Fear the Masses at once. It's more of a waste the corpse time with because I can generate money, then at the end of the game use Fear the Masses. Anyway, I think certainly the deck needs tweaked. It's hard to be able to make good judgment calls on the deck like that though, with only seeing 13 cards. So it's quite possible that I've missed something obvious that clearly shows why the deck would want to function that way. Alright, we have Haley versus Blacktree. Looks like Haley's already managed to do a Stargate run and trash an Obokata, but she's going to leave that there. Perhaps because this face-down card may be a Breach Dome, in addition to the fact that it didn't look like Haley had enough cards to go in and steal that Obokata. Blacktree has 2 upgrades on the table, one on R&D, one on HQ. You might be tempted to think those are Mwanza grids. Mwanza grid, pretty popular choice for Blacktree. Haley didn't make a run, so Blacktree is going to use Shipment from Tenon to score out of hand a new card. But the runner wants to react because they have an SMC on the table. It's possible Clot is the response to this action. We'll see. Yep. Clot hits the table, preventing the Tenon use. That's a pity, because what the proper way to interact with that as Blacktree is to install your card, manually advance it, then use Shipment from Tenon. Unfortunately, now they've lost the Shipment from Tenon card. It is a sting, so not all is lost. Haley takes 3 points of damage total, 1 for sting, 1 for the sting in Blacktree's score area, and then, of course, 1 because of Blacktree themselves, delaying the score on that Obokata 1 more turn, although I don't think it matters because Haley can just go in there and scoop that up anytime she wants. Blacktree puts another piece of ice on R&D, already blocked by a rezzed Kakugo that has been boomeranged, but that Kakugo is still going to deal the net damage. Blacktree does their standard trademark Jinteki Beanstalk by taking 3 credits. Haley responds with a, what do you want to call that? A Shaper Sure Gamble by grabbing 4 credits herself. On Blacktree's turn in response, they purge counters to get rid of Clot. Haley decides to just go ahead and use a Simul Chip to pull Clot back, and installs a Da Vinci using her trigger. Draws a card, Diesels again? No, sorry, Sure Gambles. A Blacktree, I've said it before, Blacktree is my favorite Corp ID. It's because no matter how many points you've lost, you are always in the game. And it's because you're constantly threatening that mill, net damage, kill, snare, Trixie, what have you, sort of strategy. It's one of the reasons why I love playing Blacktree. It's because I always feel like I have an out. Maybe slim, but there's always something I can play to. So even though they have an Obokata in the bin, even though they had to just spend another turn there purging to get the Clot off the table, I can't say that definitively Haley is out. Or, sorry, Blacktree is out. Now, Haley makes a weird choice to overwrite her Boomerang to mark the unres piece of ice. Perhaps it's because she knows she has the barrier breaker somewhere accessible. Because of the Gabali. She installs the Gabali, which will allow her to break Kakugo. So she wanted to overwrite her existing Boomerang to cover the potentiality of a more dangerous piece of unres ice. It is, funnily enough, another Kakugo. So it didn't matter. She could have kept the Boomerang there, although she couldn't have known that. So she took the safer play. She's going to have to take 2 net damage. In a way, Blacktree's kind of happy to see this. They want her to run through here. They want her to mill herself. This is very questionable on Haley's part. She's continuing to go. Interesting. Now, this is a Chrysium grid. And Haley just goes ahead and steals a Sting and kills herself. Questionable moves on Haley's part. I think Haley had the advantage. They had the tempo advantage in this. It just makes you wonder. That was yeah, I think that was just bad moves on Haley's part. So the moment that she runs here, so I understand swapping the boomerang. It was kind of a weird move, but she really, really wanted to get into R&D. Now, making this run here, so she swapped her breaker to the unres piece of ice. Okay, fine. I'm not going to fault her for that. Running through here, though, the moment you see the second Kakugo, and you only have, like, she had, what, 4 cards in hand? 5 cards in hand? Not very much. It had to have been 4 cards in hand. And she takes a net damage here. And this very well could have been a Mwanza grid. For those of you who don't know, Mwanza forces you to access an additional 5 cards. Or is it 4 cards? An additional 4 cards, I believe. Or is it 3? I should really make sure I know this. In my head, I never actually pay attention to the number of cards it lets you access. I just remember that it gains you 10 credits as the corp. Yes. Okay, so it's an additional 3 cards on top of the card you would normally access, plus you access Mwanza Grid itself. And for every card accessed, the corp gains 2 credits. So essentially, what you do is you flip that over, the runner accesses 4 cards plus Mwanza Grid, and the corp gains 10 credits. And often, Jinteki Blacktree will use that strategy to overwhelm the runner and increase their chances of dying from net damage by forcing them to access a ton of cards all at once, and on top of that, Blacktree gets paid to do it. So, at the point where Haley initiates this run and sees the second Kakugo, she just needs to jack out. She just needs to let Kakugo end the run. There's no reason to continue because she takes 2 net damage. She goes down to what, like 2 cards in hand? It wasn't very many. It was enough that she got flatline when she stole this and took 3 damage. Even if she didn't run into the second sting, or the third sting, she could have hit a snare. She could have hit a fetal AI. This could have been a Wanza grid, forcing her to access even more cards, potentially hitting 2 agendas or something, or breach dome. Like, there are just way too many risks involved with running here. And she had control of the game with the Obokata in the bin, and the fact that Blacktree invested 2 of their Kakugos on R&D. I am not saying this was a bad idea by Blacktree to invest 2 Kakugos like this, but I will say that Kakugo is one of the most, if not most important piece of ice to Blacktree, which means if there are 2 Kakugos on R&D, there aren't 2 Kakugos in other places. There aren't 2 Kakugos. There isn't going to be 2 Kakugos on HQ. They're not going to be in the remote and things like that, which means Haley is a lot safer to run these other places. It's going to be a lot easier over the course of the game to get into these other locations, knowing that there can only ever be 1 more Kakugo. I know she had the Stargate. She probably was really eager to get into R&D, but I think at that point you just cede R&D. You know you have 3 points in the bin whenever you want it. Yeah. Just got a little too impatient, jumped the gun, and just shouldn't have contested that 2 Kakugo server. Oh, looks like we're going to get a rematch. Solve my blabbing. And we'll finally get to see, maybe, or not finally, but we'll perhaps get to see Haley learn from her mistakes. The game is afoot already. 2 pieces of ice on R&D, plus an upgrade on HQ. Haley, focusing on the money game, puts down Professional Contacts, 2 daily casts, and is that a Kazi string? No, that's a Jackpot. Every turn, Jackpot gets a credit, and then when you finally steal an agenda, you get all the money from Jackpot, and you trash it. Barrier Breaker already revealed. Haley probably a little savvy to the fact that this guy runs Kakugos, although why wouldn't he? He's Blacktree. Blacktree reveals an NGO front, but doesn't use it. I'm not sure what's going on there. Could have been an accident. Aesop's hits the table. I don't know how I feel about Aesop's. Perhaps it's okay. Perhaps it's okay if she just doesn't aggressively install cards just for the Aesop's trigger. She needs to be mindful of the fact that going against Blacktree, your Mine went blank. Your cards are essentially your lifeblood. And it's okay if she sells the daily cast, because that's going to gain her an extra credit and things like that. But she needs to keep some dummy cards in her hand to absorb the massive amount of net damage that she's going to take over the course of this game. I'd say that half her deck is probably going to need to be allocated towards net damage. Maybe that's a bit overzealous, but in my mind, that's... What? She sold the wrong daily cast. I don't think she cares that much, but she sold the wrong daily cast. She sold the cast with 4 credits, and then the one with 2 credits ticked down. Oops. Oh well. Alright, she's going to run the remote, newly created by PE on the last turn by popping NGO, putting a piece of ice in front of a newly installed card in the server. That card is going to be DNA Tracker. Now, Haley has plenty of money to break this, and an SMC to boot. DNA Tracker is a very taxing piece of ice. Expensive to res, though. 8 credits. It's kind of thought of as the Jinteki toll booth. Now, the breaker of choice from Haley is Euler. That's the one where it sort of becomes a Yogg the turn that it's installed, kind of, because it breaks code gate subroutines for free, but only the turn that it's installed. So Haley was able to save 3 credits. Not too bad, not too bad. Breaking 3 of those for free. Starts out with a base strength of 2, so for 4 credits, well, plus the 2 to install, so 6 credits. Overall, not too bad of a deal. Sorry about that. Had to pause really quickly. There we go. We're invisible. No more Steam pop-ups. I need to make a list. I have a list of things I do before I record to make sure that the video is correct. Now I need to start doing a list of things to check on Steam so that I don't get any pop-ups while we do this. What did we miss? Was a Neural EMP used? Yeah, Neural EMP was used to deal 1 net damage. Haley was able to get into the server, but it was just a House of Knives. House of Knives is one of those interesting agendas where, as the corp, of course, you'd rather steal or score it to get those 3 net damage tokens, but it's not the world's greatest loss if you use it, especially because you're Black Tree and you deal 1 net damage back anyway, and it's only worth 1 point. Haley using Harbinger to help with those Aesop's triggers. She installs a pad tap, goes back to Black Tree, who just clicks for 3 credits. Perhaps they're looking for... What could they be looking for? What could be in their hand? I'm still not sold that they don't run Mwanza Grid. I know we saw a Chrysium Grid last game, but if it was a Mwanza Grid and in hand, because oftentimes the problem with trap cards, especially ones that trigger on access like News Team, which Black Tree can certainly run, News Team, Snare, Breach Dome, is that they can build up in your hand to a point where you just want the runner to access them all, but you don't really have a way to force them to access. And so Mwanza Grid will force the runner to access all the cards from hand, and that can be one of your win conditions. It overwhelms the runner, they take a bunch of net damage. Now, Black Tree goes ahead and purges viruses to just get rid of Palangi. They trashed a mystery card, could be a Breach Dome. Haley throws down another Jackpot and a Cyber Trooper to loot, giving her a link that probably won't matter. We see the fast advance on, ooh, nice, a House of Knives, through the use of Shipment from Tenon due to the fact that Haley did not run last turn. I have to wonder how Cyber Trooper to loot factors into this game. Is the link relevant? I don't think so. I don't think Haley has any strategies that are revolving around Link. So perhaps she wants it strictly for the ability to give +2 strength to anything installed this turn, but even that seems a little odd. We'll have to wait and see. Also, the install of the misdirection, that was likely done just for Aesop's fodder, which I don't know if I agree with. She's already down to 17 cards, and she only has one agenda in hand. Yeah, I don't think you install the misdirection for Aesop's fodder. In fact, I don't think you install the jackpot either. Let's address the real elephant in the room here. Haley has 49 credits. 49 credits, and she's continuing to install her cards. This is clearly a person who does not really understand how to fight against Blacktree, especially because of this move. This move right here shows me certainly that they don't know how to fight against Blacktree. And the reason for this, okay, so they use the reboot. Spicy include 5 influence from Apex. You get to install 5 cards from your heap face down. And the reason she's doing this is because it provides Aesop's fodder. She does not need more money, especially with this reboot include. Fine, run the reboot. That's actually perfectly fine. If you run reboot, you're not installing cards from your hand. That's wonderful. All these cards are perfect Aesop fodder. But she doesn't need more money. She has 45 credits. And Personal Evolution is a-okay with this because they have 2 more net damage from House of Knives. They have, if Haley needs to score, let's say she has to score 2 more agendas before she can score the final agenda to win the game. She can take 2 net damage from that. So she's already down to 9 cards, because that's 4 cards total, plus the 4 in hand, so 13 cards. She's going to have to deal with other sources of net damage, such as Snare, Obokata, Sting, that are going to deal more than 1 net damage when stolen. Now here's a very interesting card, Dedicated Neural Net. That's the one where you play a Psy game, and if the Corp wins the Psy game, they get to choose the card that is accessed on a run in HQ. Makes me further think that the card here in HQ, the upgrade, is a Mwanza Grid. It could just be a Chrysium, though. I mean, the reason I say that this agenda leads me to that conclusion is it seems this Blacktree player really wants to control what card is accessed in HQ. Now, I guess we'll get to see the answer. Yes, here it is. The Mwanza Grid is rezzed. Now, they're not going to play a side game because this doesn't fire in the runner score area, but there are going to be 5 cards accessed here. 4 cards accessed in HQ. There's the Obokata. Haley decides not to steal it. There's the Snare. Blacktree fires off the Snare. Now Haley has a tag and 3 more net damage. Yeah, there are 2 Obokata protocols in hand. But this is precisely how Blacktree wants to play this. They stack their hand full of traps. Mwanza Grid just earned Blacktree a ton of money. They have all the money they need at this current stage of the game. The card in Server 1 is triple-clicked as a House of Knives, which is just going to deal another net damage plus a total of 3 more net damage over the course of the game. And this is what I mean. This is why Haley should not have installed these cards. Because she needs them. She needs them as buffer for net damage. She has 71 credits. Unless she runs Guru Davinder, however you say that. Unless she runs Guru Davinder, which now that they've removed feedback filter from the game, now that Shapers can't protect themselves from net damage, which is insane because criminals can. Because of, what is it, Caldera? Yeah. Caldera is still in the game. So criminals are the only ones who can prevent net damage right now, regularly. I'm pretty sure feedback filter was removed. Yeah. Because it's in creation and control. So all of this money means nothing to Haley. She's going to run in and try to steal one of the avocados. Not the worst move ever. She accesses one of the avocados and doesn't steal it. Accesses the second avocado and decides to... Yeah, wow, there's the problem. Decides to try her luck by stealing that one, but immediately after the second avocado hits a snare, Blacktree fires that off, and Haley's dead. Haley did not need to play this way. And I think I'm certainly perplexed by a very many number of her decisions. First off, when she accesses HQ that first time and sees the Mwanza grid, she just needs to trash the Mwanza grid. She has 77 credits. 77 credits. That is outrageous. At that point, you don't need to play any of your money cards, and you just install your breakers and go. Yeah. I think probably Haley either was just learning the deck, or is really bad at playing against net damage Blacktree. Blacktree didn't even have to try in this game. So potentially, if Haley runs in here, accesses the avocado, steals it, doesn't hit a snare or a breach dome somehow, she can then go in on the second turn, try and access the avocado, and steal it with her 5 remaining cards. Because she's going to need one more card, because she's going to get pinged by House of Knives. But then after that run, she's dead, because she runs again, she gets pinged by House of Knives, she has 3 cards left in hand, she can't steal any avocados for the rest of the game. The reboot is interesting. I can definitely see how that would be attractive for anyone running an Aesop strategy. She's certainly dipping deep into Apex's pool, Harbingers, reboot, that kind of thing. But all of that money, and this deck essentially just comes down to... Oh, look, there's even the hunting grounds. All of this deck essentially just comes down to make money and use breakers. We don't know what her killer is. Probably just like Nanak K or something shapery. This doesn't need to be here. Cyber Trooper to loot. That's kind of an odd choice. Yeah. Overall, no real... I'm sorry, I know I just keep picking apart the runners in the last 3 games, but it's because the runners are the ones who have been doing the most perplexing things, and they're the ones that are the most puzzling. And so they've been requiring more time to analyze, more time to break down and figure out what they're trying to do. Oh, look, they even run 2 of each breaker, it seems like. Because there's 2 Eulers there. Maybe that's the idea. To overwrite your existing Eulers with Cyber Trooper to loot, to get boosted Euler strength and break Kogates for free. But that's a bad strategy in and of itself, because Euler costs 2 credits to install, plus it's 2 credits to boost anyway. Unless you're running a server with a ton of code gates, you're not really going to get much use out of that synergy. No real comments for the Blacktree player. The Blacktree player just did what they needed to do. They Mwanza'd HQ, they iced R&D, and they scored things out of hand with 10 and when Haley wasn't running. So, see if we can find another one here that perhaps features a different pair of users. This one more than likely is. No, it's not. It's the same 2 guys. Nothing wrong with them, of course. But looking to find some variety here. Wait a minute. I think I just saw a new one. Here we go. Alright. We have the outfit versus Hoshko. We've gone all over Hoshko before, and we featured the outfit in the first game of today. So we should be pretty familiar with these IDs. We see a piece of ice on HQ, piece of ice on a new remote, and a new card in the remote. Ice remote play, baby. Deuce is Wild from Hoshko draws her 2 cards and recoups the cost, netting her a total of 1 credit. A run on R&D with 6 cards in hand reveals nothing important. An install on Keiko and Paladin Poemu. Keiko, of course, being the console that replenishes, or rather gives the runner 1 credit anytime a credit is spent from a companion card, and Poemu being used to install any non-connection cards. So an economic opening from Hoshko. The outfit reveals a Rashida. Gaining the money and draw they need to have all the options they want, they face up a City Works project and dedication ceremony saying, "Come on in. The water's fine." Of course, that ice still on the remote is a little threatening. Hoshko decides to throw down Amakua in response. She'll need 5 cards in hand in order to steal the City Works. She's probably not going to go for it. She runs Archives once to gain an Amakua counter and then installs a Pad Tap. Good moves from Hoshko. There's not a whole lot she can do about the City Works. She's setting up. She's not going too deep in any one direction. And it's not like the outfit's going to hard-hitting news her. Well, I shouldn't say that. I should say it's more than likely she's not going to get hard-hitting news from that Archives run while they have that agenda on the board, because they're probably looking to score it. We see a Dirty Laundry and Archives, good synergy, getting her money, another Amakua counter. The outfit responded on their last click in the last turn by putting a new card in the remote. Could be an agenda, could just be another Rashida, could be anything really. Hoshko decides to falsify credentials and guess asset. Bold, if it was an agenda, she would both need to get in there as well as not have the money to do it. However, she is paid off, and to be honest, it did seem likely that it was an asset. So she gains the money from that, as well as another Amakua counter for exposing a piece of ice. The outfit goes ahead and uses their second Rashida, getting that money and draw, and ices up Archives, says no more free Amakua counters for you. Prove that you are a real runner, install more breakers. However, 3 counters on Amakua isn't small. It's the 3 strength AI icebreaker, not too bad. There are certainly scary things out there that Amakua wouldn't be able to break right now, but it's not the worst. Using those Poemu credits, Hoshko decides to install a Hippo, and then draws 2 more times. Perhaps pitching bin breakers? Yes. Black Orchestra and Paperclip hit the trash, so she's getting ready to go. Corp E is only up 3 points, which is an acceptable margin at this point of the game. She can't let the Corp score another agenda, because then they'd be on game point and she'd be sitting around with nothing. That mystery card in the server, though, could be an agenda. Probably not. Otherwise, you would assume the outfit would just outright score it. It's always the fear, though, right? The Project Atlas sitting in the server unadvanced. New piece of ice on the remote. Pad Tap, ready and active, has already gained Hoshko a couple credits from things like Hedge Fund and Rashida. Although the Hedge Fund might have been played on the same turn as Rashida, so that might not have gained any money, actually. And then, interestingly, the outfit gains 2 credits manually. Not probably what they want to do. Hoshko throws down Ice Carver, so it's going to be that much easier for Amakua to break things, plus a Dream Net. Both very expensive cards, but they will pay off over time. Dream Net now drawing Hoshko a card. Now, is she digital? She's not digital now, so here's an interesting interaction. Dream Net will draw you a card when you make a successful run. Now, you might think, oh, well, what about John Masanori? Isn't this just a more expensive John Masanori? Well, yes, but John Masanori will also give you a tag if you fail the run. In addition, Dream Net will gain you a credit if your ID is digital. When Hoshko Shiro goes into dominance mode, her identity becomes digital. So now she can take that extra effect from DreamNet. Now, it goes back to the outfit who decides to purge. Probably a wise move. They didn't res the piece of ice on R&D because they wanted to make sure that after the purge, they can threaten the res on something dangerous. Going back to Hoshiko, she installs a turning wheel, and frustratingly, I'm sure, for the outfit, uses Deuce's Wild to expose a piece of ice and make a run. The outfit reses Whoredom. Hoshiko revealed a Mausolus on Archives. Whoredom going to be able to be broken by the install of a Black Orchestra. She hippos the Whoredom after breaking it with Black Orchestra, uses DreamNet to draw a card and gain a credit, and accesses Broad Daylight. Good steal. This puts the outfit a bit on the back foot, not because of the score situation, it's just 2 to 3, but it's more that the outfit doesn't really have very much money. Now, wow, fancy include, a snare is accessed off the top of R&D, losing Hoshiko 3 cards and giving her a tag. She loses both her other Amakuas plus a hunting grounds. This is going to give the outfit the opportunity to trash any resource should she want, or should they want, sorry. But instead, they double advance the contract killer in the remote server and deal 2 more meat damage. Nice combo. I mean, there's no way the outfit knew that was going to happen. There's no way he knew that Hoshiko was going to steal an agenda and then go back in, hit a snare. But that is quite the response. Had just enough money to do it. This was going to get very tricky for the outfit to deal with if they didn't do something to pull the game back on their side of the field quick. Because they lost that piece of ice that they invested money into to res. They had the contract killer sitting there, not really able to do very much because Hoshiko wasn't at kill range. And Hoshiko was firing off DreamNet, had the Ice Carver, had the Amakua that was going to get charged up, the Pad Tap that was going to get her money, free installs from Poemu, Turning Wheel gaining counters. Hoshiko was set up, pardon me, set up, hang on one moment. Hoshiko was set up and ready to win. And I can't really fault her that much for not expecting the snare out of the outfit Wayland. I mean, how many times do you see that? You always have to think in a kill deck, yes, it's possible that somebody splashed for a single copy of snare, or maybe even two or three copies of snare, but you never really truly expect it out of Wayland. So I can't even say, like, oh, it was her fault. Like, how would she have known? And even if she hadn't, she still had plenty of cards in hand to survive the snare attack. It's just the contract killer that happened to be installed. Very lucky for the outfit. Very, very lucky for the outfit. But it wins a win. And so the outfit takes that one. Looks like Anarch versus HB. That sounds like a fun matchup. Hoshiko versus Architects of Tomorrow. Architects of Tomorrow and Stronger Together. I always get those two mixed up. Architects of Tomorrow is the one where anytime a Bioroid ice is passed, you can res another piece of Bioroid, reducing the cost by 3 or 4. 4. Seems to be the same Hoshiko deck as before. She stim hacks to get rid of the Jinja grid. And you might think that's a weird move, but that's actually quite smart. Stim hack gonna allow her to do that for free, and getting rid of the early Jinja forces HB to, or rather denies HB the ability to save those money and clicks, that money and those clicks that they desperately want to have early on in the game. That's going to set back HB quite a bit early on. Going to give Hoshiko plenty of time to set up here. Rebounding back to her, she flips her ID because she didn't access any cards, and she installs Mystic Miami and a Data Sucker. We already know she runs Amakua, so we can clearly see the strategy there. Mystic Miami being able to be used to play events, so her sure gambles, her dirty laundries are going to gain her that much more money. Back on HB's side of the field, we see that they are a bit poor. Where did they lose that money? Why are they... How did they lose money on this? Wait, what happened? They rezzed their Jinja grid? Is that what they did? I think that's what happened. They rezzed their Jinja grid, but then they went and double advanced an NGO front and got that money back. I don't know why the Jinja grid was rezzed. Maybe they pre-rezzed it or something. Anyway, Hoshko just sets up, continues to set up. Wait a minute. But there's pad taps in the bin. Okay, the Corp trashed both the pad taps. That's why they were so poor. They didn't res Jinja. They trashed Hoshko's pad tabs, but that set them back a lot on money. However, they were able to bounce back up through the use of NGO and IPO. Back to Hoshko, though, we see an Amaku in the bin, as well as the Deuce's Wild played. Probably would have rather used the Amakua to synergize with the Deuce's Wild, unless the Deuce's Wild was... enough speculation. I'm falling behind. Let's catch up with where we are now. We see an install in the remote, new card in the server, as well as another IPO. So HP went from having very little money to having plenty of money. Makes a little more sense now why they wanted to trash those pad taps. Perhaps they had all those money cards in hand and knew that they were going to be fine. Hoshko throws down the Amakua, gains another virus counter on Data Sucker and Dirty Laundry's archives. Not in that order. The Data Sucker token coming after the Dirty Laundry on archives. Kadi Jones also going to make bank for Hoshko when she needs it, already having 12 credits. The Corp Mando draws and then regular draws, looking for something. They have a single piece of ice on each server. We haven't seen anything like a DDoS from Hoshko, so no need to panic yet. Although you do have to think that the Hippo that was trashed by brain damage earlier is a welcome sight to HB. It means there's only 2 more Hippos in Hoshko's deck. And a hedge fund rounds it out for our Corp, preceded by another draw. Hoshko taking their time to think about what they want to do. What is their plan? Pad tap trashes certainly set HB back, but it also prevented Hoshko from getting some money. They have plenty of money on Kadi whenever they want to pull the trigger. They use Mystic Miami to play I've Had Worse, essentially turning I've Had Worse into a diesel. And they're storing more money on Kadi. They're not being pressured by the Corp, and I think Hoshko is playing this correctly. They're not being pressured by the Corp in any way. And they have no reason to stop setting up. There isn't even a single point scored by the Corp. And eventually, if Hoshko keeps setting up like this, they're just going to have so much money that it's not going to matter what the Corp's doing. Corp goes in and plays Attitude Adjustment. Kind of shows that the Corp is stalling for time, which is odd. So you draw 2 cards, reveal up to 2 agendas, and then gain up to 4 credits for each agenda shuffled back into R&D. So at most, you can gain 2 credits from it. They do shuffle Project Vacheron, the new one. That's the one that's not worth any points until after 3 turns that it's been in the runner's score area. 4 turns, because it has 4 agenda counters. As well as SSL, so they're running big, meaty agendas in this deck. Up to 18 points, theoretically, could be shared between Vacheron and Endorsement. Hoshko just runs archives, get more counters, installs a Hippo and a Turning Wheel. Allows HB to just continue doing whatever they're doing. HB reveals that the new card they put in the server was a Jinja Grid. They use Attitude Adjustment again to draw 2 more cards, which synergizes with Jinja Grid, because if any of those 2 cards are ice, they could then install them with Jinja. They also shuffle SSL and an Ikawa project. So this guy's only running 3-pointers, which means Hoshiko needs to steal 3 agendas to win, and Ikawa going to require, she's going to have to keep in the back of her head that she needs to save a click and 2 credits anytime she goes in for the steal. Our corp is a little upset that he's not drawing any ice. Indeed, it seems that he drew a lot of his money and event cards early. A lot of his money cards. Installs a new card in server 3. The runner sympathizes at the corpse plight of having not drawn any ice. Back to the runner though, Shore Gamble just gains even more money. She's already taken the Kadi money. Stargate hits the table. Looks like it's go time. Now, she doesn't even have to worry about any kind of random snares or anything like that, because even if they were, the Stargate is going to trash them without access. Corp gets to decide whether or not they want to res the ice on R&D. Probably. You might think, well, it's a no-brainer. You res, right? Well, the consideration is the Hippo trash. So he goes ahead and he doesn't res it, probably just knowing that it will get trashed by Hippo the moment he does. Stargate reveals Ravana, Victor, and Surveyor. Oh, there's all that ice. There's all that ice they've been looking for. And, yeah, a little jadedly, the corp says, "Hiya, hey, ice, cool." At least the corp knows, though, that their next 2 draws are going to be more ice. So they'll be able to use Jinja to install those. Another 3 credits are put on Kadi. There are 7,000 agenda virus tokens on Datasucker and Amakua. So probably the corp is going to need to ice archives, ice R&D, and purge at some point. I mean, it's just a bad situation overall. Because the real problem is, the reason... Oh, what the heck just happened? Restore? Oh, that is cool. They used a restore. Usually you don't see this used on ice. They restored... So, restore is kind of like a fixed friends in high places. You can install and res 1 card from archives, paying all costs, and you remove all other copies in archives from the game. Now, he used it on Surveyor. Surveyor doesn't have any, doesn't have any other copies in archives. Now, he may no longer need to purge virus counters. Because anytime Amakua wants to break this, Hoshiko is going to have to spend quite a few counters to lower the strength of Surveyor. Currently 4 virus counters. Now, of course, 2 are going to be replaced on those data suckers, as well as another token on Amakua. So, Corp isn't out of this entirely. He really needs to ice archives and then purge. But he needs to have the time to do that on top of having the money to res other things that are valuable. He reses an Eli on HQ, and Hoshiko goes ahead and lets that fire, gaining a turning wheel counter from it, puts more money on Kadi. Goes back to the corp. Oh, and somewhere in there, Hoshiko snuck out an Ice Carver, which just frustratingly makes strength of Surveyor that much lower. And an MCA Informant is rezzed. That's going to force the runner to get off her butt and do something. It's also going to, of course, lose Hoshiko a click to deal with this. The corp reveals a Surveyor and installs it on the remote. But Hoshiko isn't really that afraid of it. Between the Data Sucker counters and Ice Carver, it is not that hard for her to break this with Amakua. At all. She has plenty of money as well. Corp goes ahead and reses the Surveyor. Makes sense, might as well tax the runner something. Now, the good news is that when this run is successful, the data suckers won't get tokens, because I believe they're only active on central servers. Yeah. Unfortunately, the hippo is right there and ready and trashes the newly res surveyor. Ravana is rezzed, which allows you to resolve the subroutines on another piece of ice. Twice. Hoshko drains this one of its strength as well, and also breaks it with Amakua. Makes sense. She's going to be low on virus data sucker tokens after this. And because Ravana is a Bioroid ice, HB Architects of Tomorrow reses Victor for free. Feels pretty good. And runs into a Satyr. Satyr just going to be a normal 2 strength and the run, or no, sorry, 4 strength and the run. But Ice Carver and Data Sucker are going to force the issue there, allowing her to still break it with Amakua. And Ash is res in the server. It's just going to make things more expensive for Hoshko to get in here. I think Ash is a trace 4, is it? Yeah. So the Corp pays 2 credits to trace 4. Hoshko doesn't have a link because she's not in dominance mode. She accesses the Ash, trashes it, accesses the MCA, trashes it, leaves the Jinja. Possibly out of necessity? Although she could have trashed it if she really wanted to. I wonder if she should have trashed it. She has the Kadi money. Install double advance on the card in the remote. An instant res revealing an NGO front, which isn't that surprising. It's possible that the Corp. It's possible that the Corp resed it early in order to prevent something like falsified credentials from gaining Amakua even more counters, which wouldn't be out of the question for Hoshko to be running. In fact, I think we saw that, didn't we? In the other game that we saw Hoshko playing. A simple run in Archives, though, immediately gives Amakua another counter and both the Data Suckers counters. It's just the Corp really can't play this until they ice Archives. Because anytime Hoshko wants to, she can dip into Archives and get 3 virus tokens. And she's just continuing to pile money on Kadi. Unfortunately, the Corp is down to 9 credits after the NGO front, so... And their strategy seems to revolve around stacking lots of ice on a single server. So of the ice that we've seen so far, the best targets for Archives would be something like a Ravana. Probably Ravana would be the best choice. An Eli or a Victor would be perfectly fine as well. But Ravana is going to be that high strength, low to res ice that would make it difficult to get into Archives, although it could be clicked through, I suppose. But any Bioroid ice can be clicked through, so... Players are having just some comments about new games, and apparently this is the Corp's first new game since FFG closed and Nisei. Project Nisei revived the game, or should I say continued the game. It didn't even need to be revived, it was a baton pass, practically. The runner thinks that the companions make no sense for Anarch because Anarch didn't need even more money. Thematically, I was a bit confused when I saw the companions release, but what have you, it is the game that we play. A new install of MCA Austerity Policy is installed and used in Server 3. However, a stim hack is going to make short work of this, as Hoshko drives hard into the server, doesn't even have to take the Conti money. Ravana being lowered in strength with Data Sucker, and then of course when she runs into Satyr, it's going to lose another strength because of Ice Carver, in addition to a single... Actually, no, Data Sucker isn't even needed for Satyr anymore. Amako just breaks it for a credit. And ultimately, this is the position that this guy is kind of stuck in, the Corp is kind of stuck in. I'm not going to say that installing and using the MCA is like the worst move you could have ever made. It's totally lost him the game. It hasn't. It got Hoshko to spend another Stim Hack card, which now there's only one more Stim Hack that they have floating around in their deck. It forced a response out of Hoshko. That's not a bad thing. The issue just is that I don't think this HB player can possibly win the game unless they ice Archives and Purge. The efficiency of the Amakua situation is far too high. And the problem is that even if they ice Archives and Purge, they're not guaranteed to be able to win either, because at that point, Hoshko just might have the engine set up too powerfully for the Corp to be able to truly respond. Plus, the Conti money is just piling on every round, so anytime she needs it, she has real money to install real breakers, which I'm sure her Paperclip and Black Orchestra and MK Ultra are floating around somewhere. Corp says they don't like the print of Rizeki. A lot of people haven't liked Rizeki. Quite a few of the gentlemen that I play with on a bi-weekly basis don't think that Rizeki was a very good idea. I will admit it's a bit of a boring card, but I don't think it's game-breaking, but my opinion seems to be unpopular. A lot of people seem to think Rizeki was just a bad print. But they were saying that at least Rizeki costs MU, whereas the companions don't cost anything. I do have to agree, the companions, especially with 4 of them, seem quite strong. Although nobody uses Fencer Fueno. Hoshko takes the Kadi credits on the turn after HB installs and reses their 3rd MCA austerity policy. A Dirty Laundry into Archives is going to make quick work of this. I don't really understand why the Corp keeps making this move. It is very obvious that the runner can get into this remote. So at this point, the Corp isn't accomplishing anything by installing these MCAs. Like, they're just losing money. And they're forcing Hoshko to spend and lose money, but the problem is that Hoshko can replace it faster than the Corp can. And that ultimately is the issue. See, these MCAs, especially this 3rd one, this 3rd MCA, like the 2nd one, fine. Like, you were testing the waters or something, although at the point he should have known that Hoshko could have gotten into the server anyway. But at the point where you use the 3rd one, you know this guy's getting in for dirt cheap. For basically 2 Data Sucker tokens and 3 credits. That's insane. And he's trying to tax him out with cards like Ash, but Ash is only a 2 credit swing. It costs you 2 credits to res, it costs the Corp runner, 4 credits to fight the trace. Well, okay, no, sorry, I keep forgetting that the trash cost on Ash must be considered as well. So it costs the Corp a click to install and 2 credits to res, so let's net that as a resource cost of 3. Costs the runner 4 credits to fight the trace and 3 credits to trash, so 7. 7 versus 3, so it's a 4 credit swing. costs the runner 4 more credits than, or 4 more resources than it costs the corp. The problem is that you see Hoshko's money compared to the corp's. Hoshko doesn't care. And the corp can't win by making these moves. Especially because DreamNet is also netting Hoshko a credit and a draw whenever she does this. She goes ahead, just wipes the server out, runs an HQ, sees the Eli, lowers the Eli strength with Ice Carver, breaks it for 2 credits. The only way this could possibly be worse is if somehow Hoshko had bad publicity to do this. Seals an SSL. We know this guy only runs 3-pointers. Vacheron, SSL, and Ikawa. So, a little questionable that... I don't want to say questionable. It wasn't questionable. Hoshko can kind of do anything she wants in this game, is probably going to win. But if she had ran into an Ikawa project with that, because she spent all her turning wheel counters there to access a bunch of cards in HQ. If she had accessed an Ikawa project, she wouldn't have been able to steal it. Double draw from the corp, as well as an install of Ice on Archives, but that just feels 1 or 2 turns too late. Hoshko has so much money at this point. It's not just money, it's not like raw money. It's not like the Haley that we saw with 70 credits. It's the fact that the data suckers are money, the companions are money, the turning wheel is money, the Kadi is money, the Keiko is money, the DreamNet is money, the Ice Carve is money. All of these cards equal money. And they're all just working together synergistically to allow Hoshko to get into servers for like pennies. Eli's, just 2 credits to break in. Just anytime she wants to access HQ, 2 credits. And realistically, 1 credit, because DreamNet's gonna fire. Drawing her a card as well on top of it. Now, she is losing a credit per turn because of Hoshko, but she's also drawing a card per turn because of Hoshko. Now, the pass on Eli gives Architects of Tomorrow the chance to res Kamali for 2 credits. Kamali's an interesting piece of ice, but its strength is very low. It's kind of like a bad Fairchild, really. A Fairchild 3.0. Like, look at the res cost. It's the exact same, except the runner can just spend a single click to break any of Kamali's subroutines, whereas Fairchild 3.0 requires all 3. Yeah, you should probably never use Kamali over Fairchild. The only meaningful difference is that Kamali is a sentry, whereas Fairchild is a code gate, but that really isn't that meaningful. Which is pretty funny. Kamali also costs... I don't know why. Kamali costs 4 influence. Fairchild only costs 3. I mean, a lot of other corps don't typically splash for Fairchild, but if you were going to splash for Ice, and you were willing to spend 3 influence for it, to get a Fairchild, you certainly wouldn't spend 4 influence for Kamali. Probably the reason that Kamali costs more influence is because it's signature-esque for HB, because it deals brain damage. Liberated Accounts hits the table from Hoshko, but it matters precious little. At this point, it's just a means to an end. More fuel for the engine that will inevitably steal all of the Corp's agendas. Corp decides to purge. Says, hey, play the game for real. But again, at this point, it's far too late. Black Orchestra and Paperclip are already in the bin, so Hoshko can just break into HQ already. And the moment she pitches the MK Ultra, she can break into any server. She's going to do just that. Runs into the Eli, installing the Paperclip, I'm sure. You would assume. I guess we're going to have a thoughtful delay here. There we go. There's the Paperclip. Paperclip's Comes out of the bin for 4 credits. That's going to be a permanent part of Hoshko's Breaker Edition. Only costs 2 to break Eli, which is kind of funny because I was complaining that Amakuo was able to do that earlier. But I guess Paperclip can do the same thing with Ice Carver on the table. Axis is Loki. It's an interesting piece of ice. I guess it is a Bioroid, isn't it? Yeah. So it does synergize with Architects of Tomorrow. Hedge Fund played by Hoshko. Money dumped on Kadi. Yeah, there it is. The money goes to Kadi. MK Ultra ends up in the bin, and that's probably game. It was the only thing keeping Hoshko out of any of the servers was the fact that her killer wasn't present. Really, the only issue is that Hoshko's only win condition, quotes, is the turning wheel. It's the only thing that's allowing her to push the agenda of her winning condition forward. I mean, obviously, all of these cards allow her to access, to bypass ice, to get into servers, have plenty of money to do that, but she's still only accessing 1 card per run. Turning wheel, the only thing here that is giving her more forward momentum towards that access count. New card installed in server 3, as well as a mystery ice on top of the remote as well. Last click, black level clearance. Makes sense, you have to end your turn after you play that. 2 cards pitched from HQ after that. So the guy has money, and if Hoshko wants to run HQ, perhaps that card on the server is Loki? Falsified credentials to guest agenda. Instead, it is just an asset. Ash revealed in the server. Hoshko going to run archives, able to simply spend a single data sucker token to lower the strength of Kamali, and that is really painful. Kamali's low strength, making it very easy for Amakuo to break into. After this run, Amakuo will be able to do it on its own. It'll grow up to be a proper baby turtle. Accessing the face down cards, Loki res on the remote for free. Now, this Architects of Tomorrow player said that they run 17 pieces of ice. Now we do see the Project Vacheron scored. It's not going to be worth any points until 4 turns. I don't know why the agenda tokens didn't get placed on this. Oh, except archives. It doesn't work if it's in archives. So no, that's just 3 points to the runner. And another SSL scored from HQ. That was painful. This guy did say he was returning to Jinteki since Nisei took over, so he's probably over a year out of practice at this point. Can't be too hard on him. Welcome back to the family, Mr. Friendly HB Corp. Otherwise, yeah, I can see Hoshko. I can see why Hoshko. This is the first time I've seen this ID be kind of purposefully used in a deck. The digital ID synergizing with DreamNet on top of all these just little bits and pieces of economy falling into her path, which is kind of what Hoshko does anyway. She gains a credit, or she loses a credit and draws a card, or she gains 2 credits when she accesses, when she's in her shy mode. It's just kind of this little bitty drip econ that just steadily flows and steadily flows. No single piece of it is a linchpin. And that's partially what makes it so strong, because all of these pieces can be installed really in any order. They don't need to be one before the other. One doesn't rely on the other, but they all add up turn after turn after turn into pulling Hoshko ahead. I don't know if Hoshko is top tier, but she certainly is fine, you know, as a runner. Her ability, her synergies, things like that. Are there any competitive games? I kind of want to see like a real good back and forth. feel like we've been watching a lot of games where people have been a little off their sorts, either because they're new or perhaps didn't know how to play against a particular matchup, like the Haley Blacktree combo we saw earlier. We're seeing here oh, this has to be an old format. We're seeing a Wizard having those 3 credits, recurring credits on his ID to trash cards. It's any card, right? Yeah, it's trash cards. Ice Hedge Fund coming out of Blacktree. Well, technically Hedge Fund Ice. Armitage and Grimoire. Oh, baby, this is an old format. Oh, baby, it's a Grimoire. Usually you saw Grimoire out of Noise, but looks like we're going to see it out of Wizard today. That's the OG core set console from the original Android Netrunner core set release for Anarchs, plus 2 MU for a meager 3 credits to install, plus every time you install a virus program, you just immediately get to put a token on it. Very good console. Definitely should have been removed along with Desperado. Or what I mean is, it was removed along with Desperado, and it deserved to be removed. Now, Blacktree does their standard Jinteki Beanstalk and gains 3 credits. Sometimes it's just what you got to do as Blacktree. You just kind of want to sit things out, see what the runner's doing, see if you can trick them into running into something bad. Wizard, on the other hand, sits around and eats his Doritos as he plays WoW on his computer and just Armitages twice and draws 2 cards. Hedge Fund used and a double install of 2 new servers. I can't... I played so much Blacktree against a very good friend of mine that I can't do this anymore against him and get away with it scot-free. A big thing PE can do, especially against people who don't really know what Blacktree is doing, is you get a bunch of agendas in hand and you install all 3 of them. Now, I'm starting to wonder if that's what the Corp did here, because a lot of times people are afraid to run Jinteki cards when they're face down, largely because they could be a trap. So often what you can get away with as Blacktree is if you have 3 1-pointers in your hand, you just install all 3 of them. You just put them all 3 down on the table. Because the idea is, if the runner scores them, they take damage. If the runner leaves them alone, you score them, and they take damage. It's kind of a win-win with Blacktree. It's pretty fun. Can't do that against Lepsis anymore, though, because he knows how to read me too well. If I triple install 3 cards, he just runs he just runs them on, steals them, or, you know, what have you. He'll make whatever decision benefits him the most at whatever stage of the game we're in. So a double draw from Wizard, followed by a Jin. Oh man, we are seeing old cards today. This almost seems like a core set match. Except that Wizard wasn't a core set ID. He's a, Spin Cycle ID. Not Spin Cycle. Can't remember what it's called. It's something like Reaching Out or... Let's just look it up real quick. What Lies Ahead? That's what it is. So anyway, Jin installed... It's been so long. Let's read over what Jin does. It's 3 MU can host up to 3 MU of non-icebreaker programs. The memory of programs hosted on Jin don't count against your MU, as if that wasn't insane enough. It also has the ability to click and spend a credit, search your stack for a virus program, and add it to your grip. Any virus program. Anything you want. Just find it. Go get it. Back on Blacktree's turn, they take a credit, install a card on R&D, and install a new card in the server. If I was Wizard, I would run this new card. I feel like cards 1 and 2 here were Blacktree testing the water. This third card was definitely them saying, oh, you're not going to run these? Allow me to put a card that I really want to be on the table. However, looks like Blacktree doesn't do anything with it, so perhaps I'm mistaken. Perhaps this is just another trap. Double draw from Black Tree after their Mando draw. They're looking for something. Crowder previously entered the game from Wizard's side. Now there's a... I'm not sure about this. There's a Ice on Archives. And Ice on Archives doesn't accomplish anything. At all. Why are you protecting Archives? Is there something in the core set that I'm not remembering? You're not playing against Noise. You don't need to Ice Archives. This is Wizard. Wizard is playing also just very questionably here. He is kind of just installing things and gaining money. He's not making any proactive moves here. He's... if I had to guess, he's looking for his breakers to install and gaining money while doing so, and wants to just get his breakers on the table and then start running. But he has all these cards in hand. Surely he doesn't need all of them. So, and he has 14 credits. He should install the card he wants. Oh gosh, it's been a while since I've seen Crypsis. He should install the card he wants. And just between you and me, guys, I don't think Crypsis was the card he wanted to install. Install the card he wants, and then just run these face downs. Force the corp to show him what he's got. If it's a snare, oh well. Let the corp lose 4 credits. Take 3 net damage. Shake the tag, and do it again. Because that's 1 fewer snare that this corporation can use then. However, Crypsis apparently is the key piece choice that Wizard wanted to use, and he installs that after draining his lib account. Back on PE's side, there's a hedge fund played and a new piece of ice on HQ. Why is PE icing HQ? What are they afraid of? Both of these players are playing just very strangely. Wizard goes ahead and makes a run on HQ, which is odd, I guess, because he doesn't have a ton of money. He does have Crypsis, which has been... It has 1 virus token on it, so I guess he can fight... Funnily enough, he can fight the Koma Inu, because he can pay 1 to boost Crypsis, and then... Well, but he's not going to have enough money to... What? Oh, okay. So he breaks Koma Inu with Crypsis, jacks out, installs a Parasite on Crypsis. Now, because he has Grimoire, Parasite comes into play with a single virus token on it, which matches the strength of Koma Inu. Koma Inu then immediately gets trashed. So I guess that was Wizard's whole game plan, is to trash a single piece of ice on HQ. A Mushi Noshin is used on a card in Server 5, as well as a prior card installed regularly in Server 4. Black Tree has 5 cards on the table. Is that what I think it is? It is! It's a Singularity! Wow! Alright, good use of Singularity. I'm very surprised this Wizard has it in his deck. He Singularities the server, which just trashes everything into the server. Everything that's in the server just immediately gets trashed. There's no accessing. There's no, it's just no questions asked. Spend 2 clicks and 4 credits, trash everything in the server. They do go down into it does go down into the server face down. That was Wizard playing very timid. That was Wizard saying, don't harm me, I don't know what that is. I want that to go away. And so he just Singularities it. Now, it could have been a June bug, which would have outright killed him. So I can't say that it's the worst decision ever. But why did he run it at all? Was he afraid it was a Ronin? Was he afraid it was an agenda? There were so many other things that card could have been that I don't know if the immediate knee-jerk response to Singularity of that server was really important. Wizard goes back in and Armitages a bunch and places another virus token on Crypsis. The turn before that, Blacktree had installed a card in server 6. This turn triple advances it, and it's a Gila Hands. I love this agenda. This agenda feels so good. If I'm sad about getting rid of creation control, it's because of the loss of Gila Hands. Gila's Hands was such a fun card. It's so innocent too. It's just 2 clicks, gain 3 credits. It increases the click for credit efficiency of the court by 50%. Anyway, that's just a single point on Jinteki's side of the field. Of course, it did deal a single net damage. Ooh. You know, perhaps this is why Jinteki was double icing HQ. Maybe these two do seem to be playing an odd format. Maybe these two have played against each other before, because this wizard was packing an account siphon, which got lost due to net damage, and that's 4 credits. Sorry, 4 influence down the drain for wizard. So even if wizard's running all 3 of those, it's only 2 more left. And not a lot of influence to play other things. Now, he does run HQ, runs into the Yagura, goes ahead and breaks it with Crypsis, and accesses a Psychic Field. He trashes that for free with his wizard money, wizard bucks, and draws 3 more cards. He's not in any danger yet of being decked. Plenty of cards in his stack, as well as 4 in hand. We see the installation of a new card in server 7, as well as a double click for credits from Blacktree. Wizard takes 2 credits from Armitage and runs the server. I don't know if the 2 credits from Armitage was necessary. Accesses a House of Knives. Very good. Very good on Wizard's part. He loses a demolition run due to the net damage from House of Knives, but it's very good because now Blacktree can't use that. I don't know if I agree with Blacktree installing the single card. Typically, when you want to install naked remotes as Blacktree, you want to do a bunch all at once, because that way you don't give away any information. Installing the single card says to the runner, this card is important to me, please don't run it. Whereas at least if you install 3 cards all at once, you just say, these cards are important to me, guess which one is good for me and bad for you. Now we see another just new install on server 8, preceded by a click for a credit and an install of new piece of ice on HQ. Sure Gamble, as well as Surge, adding 2 virus tokens to Crypsis, and draining Armitage of its remaining credits. Philotic Entanglement coming back around from Blacktree, gonna deal 2 net damage, knocking out Singularity and a duplicate copy of Corroder. That duplicate copy of Corroder is not missed. However, I'm sure Wizard wanted to keep the Singularity. Quadruple draw from Wizard in response to taking the 2 net damage from the Philotic score. Score is 3-1. Wizard certainly can win this, but he needs to start actively doing things. And putting virus tokens on Crypsis is not really a game-winning move in general. Like, surging your Crypsis is probably one of the worst uses of Surge I could ever think of. Because typically the advantage, the reason that Surge can be a good card to use, is because it allows you to put virus tokens on cards that you otherwise don't have the ability to put virus tokens on. The reason it's so bad to surge a Crypsis is because you're spending a card and a click to play that card. So essentially 2 resources to put 2 resources on Crypsis that you could have otherwise just spent 2 clicks to put on Crypsis. Like, you have a net of 0. In fact, realistically, Wizard should have just kept this card in his hand and used it as fodder against Jinteki's net damage. He runs R&D, but then undoes the click because he meant to use Jin to add medium to his grip. Adds medium to his grip, installs medium, hosts it on Jin. Medium, we went over this, I believe, in the last episode. Seeing a lot of weird formats lately. In the last episode, we saw a medium game, and a medium is the run R&D to win the game card. So he runs R&D, he sees an Eli, he'll be able to break that for 3 credits with Corroder. Oh, I'm sorry, it's 4 credits. Yikes. Yeah, it's insane that Paperclip breaks Eli cheaper. Alright, so 4 credits break through Eli, and a Pup. Pup, you can just pay 2 credits to break its subroutines, I believe. Yeah. Pup is an interesting one from Black Tree. I used to use it quite a bit in Black Tree because it was very, very cheap to res and just kind of annoyed the runner. However, I quickly realized that Black Tree really doesn't care, or at least, maybe I should rephrase this. The way I like to play Black Tree, I do not care about how much money the runner has. They can have all the money in the world, and I do not care. And so Pup effectively forces the runner into spending 2 credits. It's kind of like a pop-up window, only Jinteki style. And because of that, I removed it and put in Harvester, I think, or maybe Crick. No, not Crick. Ike. I get rid of something else for Harvester. I can't remember what it was. Actually, I think what did I get rid of? Anyway, Harvester is a fun card. Very underrated if you're running the Black Tree style. Anyway, he gets into R&D and does steal a Heal Hands. So credit to his position. Of course, once you have a medium installed, the win condition is just run R&D anyway, so it's not like it's that hard to figure out. Goes back to Black Tree, and they diversify their portfolio, getting credit for each remote server with a card installed in it. That's a nifty way of doing it. It's a nifty way of making your failed traps worth something. I like that. I had never considered doing that in Black Tree. Typically, because the way I play Black Tree, I never have a lot of servers like this. But that's because I don't run a lot of traps. Like, I used to run, like, I tried the Cerebral, Junebug, Ronin kind of thing, and I got frustrated with it, and so I stopped doing it. But this is a way to recoup a lot of the loss of those cards that they're otherwise just sitting around doing nothing. So he paid a credit to gain 4. Essentially just, this is another copy of Hedge Fund at this point, which isn't bad. Now, Wizard has installed a new live account, as well as drawn back up to 5. It's now Black Tree's turn. They're thinking very deeply about what to do next. Score is 3-2. It is a bit anyone's game, although what these cards are may yet determine who wins. For example, I was just about to say, if any of these are agendas, the Corp certainly has the right to score any of them. So a triple advance on a card in Server 9 does not score it. Could be a Ronin, could be a Junebug, could be a Ghost Branch, could be an agenda. A fetal AI. Alright, so 8 credits taken off of the lib accounts. Wizard has to decide whether he wants to try and contest that mystery card in Server 9 or whether he just wants to keep hammering R&D. My money is on hammer R&D. He decides to simply drain lib accounts, though. I think he should have ran R&D perhaps once? Well, maybe he didn't because he knew what that card was. Did he do a medium dig on the last turn? No, he didn't. No, I can't even give him credit for that. Because the Corp would have Mando drawed through the medium dig. Yeah, he should have ran. He should have, like, taken enough money to break these pieces. So he needs 6 credits. He should have clicked liberated twice and just hit R&D. and then clicked liberated for the last click, but whatever. What do I know? New card installed by Black Tree in a new server, followed up by a Heal Hands. Wizard says, I'm tired of your shenanigans. He runs it. It's a Ronin. I think that signifies that this card in server 9 is also a Ronin. Possibly. Because I think the revelation of a singular Ronin indicates that this guy wants to be on the Ronin kill. Of course, if it's a Junebug, you're just dead, aren't you? That's the real problem. If Junebug wasn't a thing, the game would be so much easier. But because you always have to be on the lookout for taking 6 net damage out of nowhere, it's pretty rough. Although, Wizard has the cards to face tank it, if he really needed to. Wizard goes ahead and parasites the Eli on R&D. Looks like he just wants to make that R&D run as cheap as possible. He runs HQ, and Eli is rezzed on HQ. Eli used to be the pretty OG ice. It was kind of like everyone splashed for Jackson Howard and everyone splashed for Eli. He does make it in HQ and steals a 3rd Heal Hands. Those are just blank 1-pointers to Black Tree at this point, though, because they already have the singular Heal Hands in their score area and are able to use that when wanted. The Corp responds by purging virus tokens. Can't say I blame him. With those 3 tokens on Crypsis, might as well. Sure gamble played by Wizard, followed up by the last liberated accounts. And a draw for a card, draw for 2 cards. He's just biding his time, letting that parasite tick up counters to the point where it will be able to eat Eli. And 3 more turns. A little frustrating for Wizard that the Purge previously did wipe not just the tokens on Crypsis, but also the tokens on Parasite. A new card in Server 11. And Heal Hands. And this is why I liked Heal Hands so much. It was such an innocent economy card. Back in the day, this usually was when Leps and I just had, like the core set and very few cards. This is often how I would play. Score a Heal Hands, do something, take 3 credits, do something, take 3 credits. It just felt good. I don't know if it was, powerful, but it just felt good. So, Wizard gins for the 3rd Parasite and uses it on Yagura. Pup. Pup immediately gets trashed. There's a new install of a card in a new server, as well as a double advance as a response from Jinteki Black Tree. The 3rd virus token ticks up on Eli next turn. It will die to Parasite. And I'm sorry, something I completely didn't mention is that Virus Purge also got rid of the medium counters. Medium only being effective while it has counters on it. Now, it activates when you make a successful run. So you get to put a counter on it when the run is successful, but it only accesses more cards for every virus token on it after the first one. That also explains why this wizard is running Grimoire, because essentially it turns medium on 1 turn sooner. He does access R&D, only sees 1 card, sees a shock, which is, for those who weren't around for shock, it's essentially Breached Dome, only it deals just straight up 1 net damage, and doesn't do the top of R&D thing. It also costs 2 credits to trash, as opposed to Breached Dome, which costs 0. Wizard loses Surge. I don't think he's too upset about that. And then he makes a very questionable run into Archives, where he hits that shock again. Very, very questionable run into Archives. Because he just put the shock in Archives. So why do it again? the game-winning move. I mean, even if there were agendas in here, it wouldn't have won him the game. Now see a triple advance of a card in one of these servers. I didn't even catch which server it was. Server 4. Wow, that was an early one. An early one. Blacktree held on to that for quite a long time. Server 4. Yeah, that was like installed a million years ago. Anyway, he goes ahead and scores it. And that's going to be 3 more net damage. Wizard needs to be a little concerned about the amount of net damage he might take over the course of this game now. He's down to 17 cards. Certainly enough to do what he needs to do, but that timer is at least on the horizon. That HP card count timer. At this point, though, R&D is completely wide and open. There's a card in server 12 with 2 advancement tokens on it. Blacktree installs another new remote and then heal hands for more money. Wizard gonna have to be careful. Every time he runs now, he has the threat of being pinged by House of Knives. He continues to install more and more cards. I caution perhaps against doing this. R&D is wide open. Why this guy isn't just running R&D to win the game, I don't understand in the slightest. Going back over to Blacktree, we see 2 new servers and a click for a credit. Wizard now has to be worried. He immediately runs one of the newly created servers. Now, is Blacktree going to ping him? No, it's a Jackson Howard. Jackson Howard rezzed, immediately used to shuffle 3 cards, probably 3 nasty cards back in R&D, although we haven't seen any snares. You gotta assume the shock is probably going back in R&D. And then, what else would I pick? If I was, maybe the Ronin? And the Eli? Yeah, maybe shock, Ronin, and Eli. Or maybe swap one of those out. Maybe keep the shock in archives, but take a hedge fund instead. I don't think you want the Cerebral, maybe the Mushin, but depends. Yeah, okay, so the Mushin is selected, because he wants that trap game. Mushin, Cerebral Overrider, okay, so he went for the trap mode. He took Mushin, Cerebral Overrider for the, obviously the 3 brain damage, and then took a face down card, which you wonder if perhaps that was an agenda. Wizard Deja Vu's for another Parasite. Oh, right. So, like, this is the dumbest card in the world, Deja Vu. Not only does it just let you pull any card out of your archives and put it back into your hand, it allows you to pull 2 virus cards. I cannot believe this card was printed. Very good reason. This card is no longer in the game. Deja Vu used by Wizard to pull back 2 parasites. He parasites the Yagura, which immediately trashes it, and parasites the Eli. This was kind of the standard game for Anarch back in the day. Like, they didn't really need to play Netrunner. They just needed to play Net, install Parasite and Medium, and trash all your stuff, and then run and access all cards in R&D. I am immensely baffled why this Wizard hasn't won the game already, though. He just needs to draw up and run R&D. Like, I know I keep saying that, but he doesn't need to dance around and do this nonsense where he's trashing the ice on HQ. And you saw with Jackson Howard, if you were playing the game, if you were this Wizard, you saw the Jackson Howard shuffle in a Cerebral Overrider and a Mushi no Shin, which means that's 1 fewer shock in R&D that you're going to hit. You aren't afraid of Mushi no Shin or Cerebral Overrider. They're not going to hurt you. There, finally run an R&D. He needed to draw up more than this. He needs to draw up to, like, probably just should have drawn, then ran For some reason, PE doesn't ping Wizard. Now he ran R&D, now he's going to run again into HQ using the data sucker to lower the strength of Eli. I would not want to run HQ if I was Wizard, because HQ is probably where all of the snares are sitting. Now he does see a future perfect. They play a side game. Runner bets 2. Corp bets 1. That's bad betting from the runner. The runner should almost always bet 0 or 1, but most of the time they should bet 0. The math just works out better that way, because then the corp is forced to spend money no matter what. If this is his plan, he should just run HQ and bet 0 every time. Now we see the double advance on the card in server 15. It is the fetal AI, and that's perfectly fine for Wizard to see the corp score. You are never upset necessarily if the corp had to waste an extra 2 clicks and 2 credits to score fetal AI, which is essentially a blank 3-2, but it costs 5 instead of 3. I phrased that weird. I mean, you're not happy that the corp scored 2 points, but I'm just saying that it's a rough agenda to score, and it doesn't get the corp anything while it's in their score area. But the pressure's on Wizard now. Wizard's probably lost this, because PE is on game point. I guess he's going to install a Jin. Click for a... What is he doing? Run R&D, you fool! The installation of the imp wasn't the worst choice ever. It's not the choice I would have made, but you can run R&D and trash their stuff and keep accessing cards in R&D. The only thing this guy has to be afraid of is shocks and snares. But there it is. There's Ronin. That's going to be game. Funny thing is, any of these could have been agendas and that would have been game. This Wizard using some of the most busted cards in Netrunner, making some of the weirdest choices. But okay. Blacktree did what Blacktree does. They just ground out the game and won through net damage. They were going to win through scoring agendas anyway. Yeah, he said he was too worried about cash. He didn't need money. Like, he shouldn't have trashed the ice on HQ. He just should have ran R&D. He would have had money. He's Wizard. He gets free money to trash things anyway. And most of these cards that Jinteki's using here are either 0 to trash like Cerebral or Overrider, or are well within Wizard's budget to trash for free. And fine, install the imp, but then use it. Run R&D and trash stuff. He did manage to get the future perfect. They played a side game. They both bet 1. But still. It's also weird that Blacktree never pinged Wizard with House of Knives. Ay, caramba. Daylight Savings has got everyone playing all sorts of funky today. Watch a new game. Max versus Jemison? Yeah, that's Jemison. Jemison is kind of the black sheep of the Wayland family. Anytime you sacrifice an agenda... Well, that's not the right word. What is it called? Forfeit. Forfeit an agenda. You can put advancement tokens on a card equal to the number of agenda points of the card you sacrificed plus 1. Sounds very complicated, but once you wrap your head around it, you can do some pretty nifty things with it. Gachapon and Stargate were trashed by Max's ability, and we see a manual install of MK Ultra and Paperclip? What? Guys, save me! What is happening today? Where are people's minds? Why would you manually install these two cards when you see no ice on the table? Normally, you don't want to manually install these cards anyway because you want to save the click by overdrawing and trashing them. But now, what? Why? Oh, okay. So paperclip and another Stargate. Big tear in the eye when you see the second Stargate hit the bin. And oh gosh, I hurt inside. This Max just clicked for a credit, played I've Had Worse, clicked for another credit, and played I've Had Worse. What is happening? I usually say this at some time in my videos because I want to be really apparent that anyone, regardless of their skill or logic or talent or anything like that, should absolutely play any game they want and have fun doing it. So I've said it before, I'll say it again in this video. I do not mean in any way to insult the person behind the pilot of any deck that we watch. However, I certainly intend to analyze and question and be baffled by moves that don't make sense objectively. So, when I say things like, what on earth is going on? Why on earth did they make that decision? I certainly don't mean that as a personal insult against the player. What I mean is that I do not understand the strategical decision behind it, and from my perspective, it is the wrong choice. And certainly, I am no perfect player either, and I make multitudes of wrong choices when I play Netrunner. That being said, we are the observers of this game, so we will continue to analyze and question the odd choices in the game so far. Alright, so taking another look back at what just happened, the Max overdrew heavily and trashed their third Stargate, so I guess they just don't want to Stargate a completely open R&D. That's okay, they didn't have the money to do it anyway. They get rid of a buffer drive and a daily cast, they trash their MK Ultra, they get rid of an Apocalypse. That wasn't their choice. That was trash because of Max's trigger. So, making the installation of these breakers an even worse choice. Because if your plan is to Apocalypse, you want to have the least number of things on the table when you Apocalypse. We haven't even taken a look at what's been happening on the other side of the table. On the other side of the table, we've seen a hedge fund and a Rashida. And a piece of ice on HQ, followed by a bunch of cards in this server. How on earth do they have 17 credits? Have they just been clicking for credits? I mean, Hedge Fund Rashida gives them a total of 7 extra, right? Plus their starting 5. I don't know how they got the extra. Oh, here it is. The hostile takeover. Alright, so another hostile takeover is scored. Max now has 2 bad publicity anytime they want it. This is also another reason why you should never install your conspiracy breakers like this. Max could have ran and used bad publicity to install the conspiracy breakers. Max trigger trashes another APOC and a DDoS. Huge tier. Max triggers are not being kind to this player today. They decide, with 5 credits to their name, to run HQ. They run into an Afshar. They can only break one of those. They don't even have the Black Orchestra installed. Heck, they don't even have it in the bin. So this is just going to fire. They're going to lose 2 credits and the run is going to be ended. I'm pretty certain there's nothing they can do about this. All subs are fired. But the good news is the money that was lost came from the bad publicity. So Max doesn't lose any real money. And it did force the Corp to spend 3 credits, although the Corp has had so much time to gain money at this point that it doesn't really matter. These 3 cards in Server 2 could be anything, really, but kind of think that coming out of Wayland, Prysec is always something that comes to mind when I see upgrades. It could also be that one... Isn't there a card where like it's like an executive or something, and he benefits when you forfeit agendas or something like that? I don't know. I don't play a lot of Jemison. Very little, actually. It looks like our runner disconnected. Looks like a couple people disconnected. The runner might have just decided that they didn't want to play anymore. Well, no, because then it would say they left the game, right? Disconnected is different. Disconnected means they lost connection. Let's bow out of this one. Let's see if we can find a different one. Oh my gosh, Black Tree is everywhere. I'm so sick of watching Black Tree. Is that Apex? Alright, let's watch Apex versus HB. This cannot be real. It is. Turn 1, Mirror Morph versus Apex. Mirror Morph ices HQ, installs nanoteching Matrix, and uses nanoteching. Very nice! Okay, I've been playing a lot of Apex against Leps lately, and something I learned is if you run Consume, it's not a terrible idea for Apex to contest a board state while Consume is on the table. You install Consume, you trash stuff, yeah, you're going to drop on low credits, but hey, you're Apex, you're bad already, so, you know, you might as well get those Consume counters running and take things away from the Corp. Mirror Morph responds by drawing, icing, R&D. They're probably going to try to take a unique action. They do. They click for a credit, and then they use Mirror Morph's ability to gain them another credit. Ditching 1 card in archives. Apex build scripts. Very attractive card for Apex because he just needs money and draw. He's so basic as a runner that and it's so hard for him to get money and draw. I know that sounds hilarious. It's like the most basic things a Netrunner that any runner needs, but there you have it. Oh! You've got to be kidding me! So he dirty laundries archives, and the one face down card is a Cyberdex Virus Suite, which purges that precious little lone virus counter on Consume. That little innocent virus counter. Come on! Apex has so much trouble already. Why are you punishing him more? So he goes ahead and throws down the Endless Hunger as his last click. I'm sure he's not happy to lose what little investment he had on Consume already. Mirror Morph draws, installs a new card, and takes 2 credits through the use of its ID ability, and then pitches another card. Apex continuing to use his ID to throw face downs. Double build script enters the bin, so that's all the build scripts gone, and a hedge fund. Now the question we have to ask ourselves, is this APOC Apex, or is it Engine Apex? Now, seeing a Consume and an Endless Hunger hit the table like this signifies that it could be an Apocalypse Apex. But it's too early to tell, because the cards that we've seen Apex use here are very typical of just Apex in general. Reboot on archives. A good time to use it. Good time to reboot. Gonna get 5 cards out of archives face down on the table for this. Plus, there are no tokens on Consume, so Cyberdex Virus Suite doesn't matter. We see a manual draw, an install of Chopbot. Okay, so this is Engine Apex. It's very rare to see an Apocalypse Apex. This is Engine Apex. The Chopbot gives that away. Well, I shouldn't even call it Engine Apex. This is very specifically Chopbot Engine Apex. And that Chopbot is going to give him a draw every turn when he's eating these face down cards. And because this is revealed as Chopbot Apex, we know that he's also running things like Reaver and Wasteland. Yeah, pretty much just those two, Reaver and Wasteland. And those are going to be giving him things every time he Chopbots one of his cards. Mirror Morph draws and installs 2 cards in the remote server with a single piece of ice protecting it. Board state of Mirror Morph is another piece of ice on HQ and 2 on R&D. Apex Chopbots, he'll be doing that the rest of the game. So we won't be mentioning it. It'll just be an ongoing trigger. Dirty Laundry's Archives, why not? Still no counters on Consume. Dirty Laundry's Archives again. This Apex is very fortunate to have drawn a lot of these cards. 2 Dirty Laundries. Didn't they also... They use one of these face downs as a Dirty Laundry. So they not only got all their build scripts, they also got all their Dirty Laundries. And I know it sounds crazy, but Apex is so hard up for money that Dirty Laundry is one of his best economy cards. It's because he just can't install resources. MCA reveals an MCA, or what am I saying? Mirror Morph reveals an MCA austerity policy, uses it, also reses a cold site server, and all of those actions were considered unique, therefore Mirror Morph fires and he gains another credit off of it. Cold site server, click to place a counter on this upgrade. As an additional cost to run this server, the runner must spend 1 click and 1 credit for each hosted power counter. The caveat is at the beginning of your next turn, you remove all power counters. Back to Apex. There's a double draw, which is strange because Chopbot also gained them a draw. A third draw, 8 cards in hand. Even if he plays a single card now, he's going to have to ditch 2 of them. What's he looking for? His Wastelands? His Reavers? This is really the issue with Apex, is that Wasteland is not a great card to begin with. Add to that it costs 2 credits and there's like no way to counter or tutor for it. Apex Engine Apex, Chopbot Apex can sometimes just be screwed because he just simply doesn't draw the pieces of his engine. He's not like Geist. He can't tutor for his tech traders. He doesn't get to draw a card every time he uses a trash can ability. It's why ultimately I think Chopbot Apex, even though it pseudo works, is just bad. You might as well be playing Geist. Another cold site server is revealed on R&D. And MCA is used by Mirror Morph. I think the cold site server was used on R&D to prevent any kind of Apocalypse play. Should this Apex be running Apocalypse? I mean, it's possible. He hasn't shown any pieces of the engine. I keep talking like this is, oh, there's a Chopbot Apex, but technically we haven't seen the engine here. Anyway, reboot, I didn't mention, but the reboot grabs 5 more cards out of archives. The Corp is being a little goofy, getting really upset at Apex because he forgot to fire Chopbot, so he fired Chopbot manually. Yeah. Are you kidding me? That's bad form. That is incredibly bad form. on the part of our corp here. So essentially, this guy's playing his Apex, and he's got his chop bot, and obviously he's going to chop bot every turn. Like, it's kind of like what we said earlier. There's no reason why Apex isn't going to chop bot. I even said I wasn't going to mention it because, and I probably did mention it, so I apologize, but I even said Apex is just going to chop bot every turn. Like, it's obvious. It's not like maybe I'll chop bot or maybe I won't. Anyway, Apex accidentally missed his chop bot trigger, so he manually did the chop bot trigger in the middle of his turn. The corp kind of freaked out over it and said, you can't do that in the middle of your turn, but it's like, what else would he have done? It really doesn't change the game state. And so Apex just conceded and left, which shows a certain amount of grace on Apex's part and really bad form on the corp's part, because Apex could have just left the game, but conceding at least allows the records to stay clean on completion rates for both players, as well as the fact that at least communicates with the other player that, hey, I'm done. And certainly was bad form on the part of our corp. It's a little unfortunate. But we see the same Apex. I kind of want to keep watching this Apex. So same Apex against Brain Damage HB, Cybernetics Division. Each player has their hand size reduced by 4. Apex, of course, getting that face down install at the beginning of his turn. We are on turn 3. I don't know why I called that turn 3. It's definitely not turn 3. That was turn 1. And we see the turn 1 Apocalypse, which throws a bunch of cards in the bin. And that was not the worst choice ever, because the cost of Apocalypse was offset by the Dirty Laundry. And there we have our answer. This Apex deck is running Apocalypse. He's just also including Chopbot to kind of offset the loss of not having a draw engine. So he's kind of dipping into the engine Apex mentality by taking just the Chopbot. But we never saw a Wasteland. We never saw a Reaver. And he's going to Assimilate. Assimilate is a tough cookie to use. 5 to install, virtual resource, and then if you Apocalypse, you have to flip it over. But it does let you spend 2 clicks to flip any face-down card over, so perhaps now is the time to do it. Corp reveals their advanced assembly lines, uses it to install an upgrade on R&D. That was after spending 3 clicks to draw a card. Oh, it's Apex, or Aesop. Aesop Apex. So the other way to get around Aesop's restriction with Apex is to use him with Assimilator. So now he's going to be able to sell all of his face-down cards for 3 credits a turn. The engine is live. This might be the I am become chop bot Apex. Or, no, sorry. I am become chop shop. There was a winning deck, an Apex deck on Netrunner for a little while. Let me see if I can find it. It's a play on I am become death. Let's see here. Here we go. I am become pawn shop. It apparently took first place at Gamescape South Carolina and was undefeated. However, that version of it used Amakua and no build script. So no, this can't be the... Nah. This isn't the same exact deck, but it's probably just a variant of the whole concept of Aesopsing in Apex. I gotta say, I'm not a big fan of it. I don't think it's a terribly good thing to pursue out of Apex, and the reason for it is because can't Haley just do this better? Yeah, I Am Become Pawn Shop also doesn't run Apocalypse. So this guy's kind of torn between two worlds. He's trying to run the I Am Become Pawn Shop kind of mentality, but he also includes Apocalypse. He also includes Consume, which isn't used in the I Am Become Pawn Shop deck. We see an Interdiction, probably used more as a countercurrent. So because the runner says that he's going to be right back, so we have a little bit of downtime to discuss some concepts in Apex. Something you need to consider. Now that's curious. He ASOPs his DDoS. I personally would want to assimilate that. Looks like the runner did come back, so we won't have as much time to talk as I was hoping for. Oh, okay, he's gonna reboot it. Now that makes more sense. I had wondered if that was the game plan. You see, he reboots archives. I think this replaces access. Yeah, instead of accessing cards. So he reboots archives, he'll get to reinstall DDoS. He can spend 2 clicks after that to flip DDoS up if he should choose, which I kind of think he should choose. It would invalidate the ICE on the only ICE servers at the moment. He could even run the remote if he thought it was an agenda. Although it's probably an Ash in there, would be my guess. He spends 2 click. Yep, he does that. Just that. He DDoSes the assimilated DDoS. Runs the server, sees an MCA austerity policy, pays the 3 trash, gains that money back from Consume, feels so good. Accesses Tranquility Home Grid. Excellent. It's not an Ash. He'll definitely want to trash that as well. No, he leaves it. He leaves it. What on earth? No! Oh, he has to leave it. My mistake. My apologies. He didn't have the credits to trash it. Yeah, that's heartbreaking. I'm sure he would have wanted to trash it and then just taken the money back off of Consume on his next turn. Tranquility Grid going to give the Corp an extra draw. We see a Marcus Batty res. Divert Power lets you de-res things and then res ice, lowering the cost by 3 for each de-resed card. He reses a tier at a 6 credit discount, but had to reveal that it was the Marcus Batty on the server. Also, Tranquility Grid costs a credit to res. Yeah, I don't know if that was a good use of Divert Power. Why is he so afraid of R&D? Why does he want to res the ice on R&D so badly? Because Tranquility Grid forced him to spend a credit to do that. He revealed that the baddie was on the server, which fine. It's hard to judge the value of revealed information in terms of credits. So for the time being, let's disregard the revealed information. Plays Divert Power, which in and of itself costs 2 credits. Yeah, he only really gained 3 credits out of that, which I guess is something. But now I am going to bring up the whole revealed information aspect. Now the runner knows that this is a sentry. Sorry. Brain blanking. The runner knows this is a sentry. There's 2 things I can say in defense of the Corp for this action. First off, he's already seen the DDoS, which means that he knows that if it's rezzed already, actually, yeah, that is why he did this. Okay. So he rezzed this to avoid the DDoS interaction. Apex can no longer DDoS and run here. Now, the second part of it is that he also got apocalypsed earlier. So, the Corp, didn't want to see a run, and then another apocalypse interacted with by the DDoS, which was going to prevent him from rezzing tier anyway. Never mind. That makes a lot more sense now. So, good move on the Corp. Apex, meanwhile, installs Chopbot. So he's going to have that engine running. Although, last game we didn't see any Wastelands or Reavers. So I don't know if that's just not on the table for this guy. Oof. And the self-destruct chips is scored. So Apex's hand size is only 3 now. Chopbot continuing to trash things. Now the reason, now I'm back on the train of thought of what I wanted to discuss before Apex came back and did all the other plays and stuff. The interdiction is more likely a countercurrent, and the countercurrent being the prime counter to ELP, elective. I can't even remember what the actual card is called. The current essentially forces the runner to lose a click on their first run. Or they have to spend another click on their first run, which makes the apocalypse plays rough. Apex runs in to the remote server, trashes Batty, gets another consume token, trashes Tranquility Grid, gets another consume token. Now, if I was him, I'd be afraid of... Whoa! He on Passants! He on Passants because the server did not have any rezzed ice, which gets him another consume token. I'd be very afraid of the Corp purging. I don't know if maybe that just wasn't an option that the Corp wanted to take, because instead they play hedge fund and install another upgrade in R&D after having drawn for a card. I really think he should have purged those. I can't understate how much Apex struggles to make money. If I was Apex, I would also take that consume money straight up quick before the Corp purges. I'd say about 3 maybe, but 4 definitely is the time. And of course the board state at any given moment should be considered. Yeah, this is a variant of the I am become pawn shop, because there's the Amakua. Yeah, he does take the 8 credits off consume after running HQ, was it? Yeah. He accessed a hedge fund. No big interaction there. Hedge fund from the Corp, followed by an install, preceded by a draw. Now, the real reason I don't like the I am become Chopbot interaction is because I am become pawn shop is because you have to use Chopbot to trash the cards that you want to sell with Aesops, to draw a card, to install a card face down, to trash with Aesops, it's a good way to grind through your deck and not have any cards to play, I think. I mean, I can't really say it like I am an expert on the matter, because clearly the I am become pawn shop got first place and went undefeated at South Carolina. But, I mean, if you're going to play this strategy, if you're going to play this Aesop strategy, wouldn't Haley or Geist just be a better choice? Can't they play the Aesop's game just better? Back to Cybernetics Division, they install 3 cards, 2 pieces of ice, and a new card in the remote with Tranquility Grid behind it. The final reboot is played. I think that's the final reboot. No, is that just the second reboot? Yeah, second reboot is played, getting 5 fresh new cards out of archives. Now, if he has a way to get through tier, which I don't think he does. Tier has 7 strength. It's going to be a while until Amaku is able to break that. I mean, the perfect idea, right, for synergistic plays is to reboot Archives, Dirty Laundry HQ, and just run right into R&D and then Apocalypse. Not happening here, though. Apex has managed to get quite a bit of money. But Cybernetics Division scored another agenda in their Vitruvius, so it's now 3-0. Apex double draws and installs Endless Hunger. And this is certainly where it deviates from the I Am Become Pawn Shop. I think this guy's deck does not run any real breakers, instead relying on Endless Hunger and probably Heartbeat to absorb any damage. Heartbeat is best against brain damage. And with that Heartbeat on the table, if Cybernetics Division's goal was to kill the runner through damage, specifically brain damage, Heartbeat puts that plan to an end. Problem is, agenda cards like self-destruct chips or currents like defective brain chips reduce... Oh, no. Defective brain chip doesn't. Sorry. Self-destruct chips reduces the runner's hand size. Not the same thing as brain damage. Can't be prevented by Heartbeat. However, defective brain chips, I question why Cybernetics Division used this card. Essentially what it does is the first time each turn the runner takes brain damage, they receive extra brain damage. The problem is they're not... Apex isn't going to receive brain damage. Heartbeat's going to prevent that. That was a waste of a click and 2 credits. Should have just pitched this. He's not going to hit Apex with it. Useless current. And he also knows that Apex runs countercurrents in Interdiction. But if I was Apex, I wouldn't even play my countercurrent here. Apex deuces wild. Looking at that ice on the remote server, it is Fairchild 3.0. Decides to run Archives just for the Amakua counter. I don't know why they installed a card face down. I think they installed a card face down because they forgot to do their Apex trigger. And this corp isn't going to be a giant Twinkie about it. Corp decides to triple advance. Pulls out another self-destruct chips. Apex is playing with a hand size of 2. It's like the inverse of Adam. You start out with a higher hand size and you will go lower. Wait a minute, what am I saying? Hang on. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, hand size of 2. But again, Apex can't die from damage as long as he has cards to trash with Heartbeat. The real problem is I don't know what Apex's winning move here is. And this is ultimately the problem of any Apex deck that gets caught between the two currents of, do I Apocalypse or do I build an engine? This guy has Apocalypse, so he's kind of incentivized to... Oh, is he going to trash tier? No, he can't. This isn't going to work. He has to trash 7 cards to get rid of tier. Okay, so he's praying tier. And pray is when you pass a piece of ice, trash cards equal to the strength of that ice, and then you trash that ice. He's probably going to click through it. Why did the corp pay 2 credits out of nowhere? I'm a little confused. Oh, he's paying 2 credits because they played a side game with Marcus Batty. Again, though, it doesn't matter. Like, the Corp is desperately trying to hit Apex with this brain damage. The Corp spent 2 credits to do this, but Apex says, okay, and trashes Chopbot. Now, another baddie's res, but Apex is just going to continue to bet 0 here. They both bet 0. Yeah, I think the Corp finally kind of caught on to the fact that their brain damage doesn't mean anything against Apex. The real issue, though, is that Apex needs to spend 7 cards. Where's he going to get 7 cards? So the 2 face-down cards, plus what? Assimilator, Aesop's, Heartbeat. I mean, he could get rid of these 5. Plus, he could get rid of Endless Hunger and Consume. Yeah, he's going to click through the subs. It's really tight either way. Even if that Marcus Batty doesn't fire, I mean, the chop bot definitely would have made this easier because you could sack the chop bot. But, oh, he's getting rid of the DDoS? No! Don't get rid of the DDoS! No, what are you doing? No, okay. He needs the DDoS because what he does is after this, he DDoSes and then he can get through the server. Oh. No, this is wrong. He should have kept the DDoS because then he can DDoS on his next turn and Apocalypse. But now, theoretically, the Corp can res whatever this ice is on HQ. Not that it matters because the Corp had 7 billion clicks to do whatever they wanted to. Because when tiers subroutines are broken by spending a click, the Corp gets a click on their next turn. I guess it wouldn't have mattered then if he hadn't kept the DDoS because the Corp is going to win anyway. Rough times for Apex. He did what he could. Apex is just a hard sell all around. If I had to give any improvements, I would say get rid of En Passant. I know he used En Passant to good effect, but get rid of En Passant. If you want to run a DDoS Apocalypse En Passant strategy, just play Anarch and splash for Apocalypse. Apocalypse is only 3 influence. It's insane. It should have been 5. So splash for Apocalypse, play Anarch, and do your DDoS En Passant combo. If you want to make this deck better in Apex, then get rid of Interdiction. I know he's playing Interdiction as a countercurrent, but get rid of Interdiction, get rid of En Passant, and instead put in Out of the Ashes. Same influence cost as En Passant, but it essentially gives you a click when you need it to do Apocalypse plays. So if you're worried about ELP, if you're worried about MCA austerity policy, if you're worried about things like that, just use Out of the Ashes. What else would I do? I mean, the DDoS is fine. DDoS on its own is fine, just not DDoS En Passant, because at that point you're practically Anarch anyway. The Endless Hunger is questionable, and the Amakua, fine. Like, Amakua isn't a bad breaker to have ever because it only costs 1 influence. But I think you can't skimp on the real breakers. Like, run Nanook K, run Corroder, and run some other code gate breaker just so you have something. Because you can always assimilate those breakers back if you need them. The reboots are fine. And of course the reboots are good, but don't I know, I feel bad because I'm basically just saying, like, don't play any of this deck. But that's kind of the problem with this strategy, is that Aesops and Chopbot fight against each other. Now, there's the idea behind installing Chopbot if you don't have Aesops, and the moment that Chopbot draws you Aesops, then you Aesops the Chopbot. So that's an idea. The Apocalypse, though, is a very, very different deviation from here. This is what I've been looking at the entire time. This is the I Am Become Pawn Shop deck. And this isn't even usable anymore because it tried to take advantage of Cyber Cypher and used a strategy involving flipping Cyber Cypher over with Assimilator, so that Cyber Cypher could be used on any server that you wanted. That has since been errated, so you can't use this combo anymore. But you can see already why this deck is built without Apocalypse. I don't know. Certainly never a bad thing to try new strategies, and by all means, no one would ever learn anything unless they were trying new things. So, fun to see an Apex that tried to include Apocalypse in the I Am Become Pawn Shop idea, but probably destined to failure. Although, then again, if you ever play Apex, you're probably just destined to failure anyway. Going into a new game, we have Smoke versus SSO. Said it before, but these tend to be very quick games. Smoke, Career Fairs, Beth Killerain Chang, and Daily Casts, or perhaps Career Fair, the Daily Cast, doesn't matter. Actually, it does, you're right. Daily Casts was the Career Fair target because of the 3 credit cost. Killerain Chang entering the table. Corp installs a piece of ice on a remote. Reses Jinja, uses Hedge Fund, draws some cards. Back to Smoke, she double SMCs after drawing 2 cards. She is prepared. Were both SMCs necessary? Couldn't she have done something else? That's a little nitpicky. A new piece of ice is installed on the server, the remote server with Jinja. It is revealed to be Ice Wall. So Jinja making things a little easier on Smoke. Also, Wormhole was revealed. So this is a Wormhole and an Ice Wall, which means Smoke knows exactly what they need to have to get in here. This card on the outside being the Ice Wall, which means after the double advancement on Hollywood renovation, it is a 3 strength Ice Wall that's going to cost the Corp 1 credit to res, and a Wormhole, which is going to cost the Corp 0 credits to res, I believe. And they can use it to end the run, fire the end the run Ice Wall. So for 1 credit, Smoke suddenly has to break through a 7 strength code gate. Now instead, they decide to install Maw, run R&D, force a trash from HQ because of Maw, gain a credit, and then put down After Image, which is going to let them bypass a sentry. That's questionable. Why did they feel the need to go down to 0 credits to install something that they can't even use yet? You need 2 credits to bypass a sentry, and they only have the 1 coming from Smoke. Corp, meanwhile, installs a piece of ice on R&D, advances Hollywood renovation, put another counter on Ice Wall, so it's now 4 strength, and uses their ID ability on the ice put on R&D. Now, I'm not going to lie, it's a tough spot to be in for Smoke. She does stim hack the remote. This is probably the right choice. But she should know exactly how much money she needs to get in here. And I'm afraid that even with the stim hack money, she doesn't Oh, okay, she runs Penrose. Okay, so Penrose can be used as both a decoder and a barrier breaker. This makes more sense now. The Corp is didn't quite realize that Penrose counts as both. The issue, though, is that Penrose can only increase in strength by spending credits from a stealth card. She has no other stealth card. She knows what this ice is. The wormhole's just going to be rezzed, and she's going to bounce off of it. Because Penrose can no longer have its strength increased. So she just stim hacked for nothing, essentially. She stim hacked to install Penrose for free. Is the end result of this exchange. Oh? Wait. Is there something more? Oh! Okay. It all makes sense now. All of these decisions that I thought were potentially questionable from Smoke all make sense. The double SMC was for this exact play. Now, I'm still curious as to why the after image was installed, but whatever. Like, the double SMC was for the Penrose into the mantle play, and after image was probably installed so that way all three types of programs could be interacted with. The problem is, it looked like she still didn't have enough credits to break Wormhole. And so she lets Wormhole end the run. She runs HQ. A Corp doesn't res anything. She acts as a preemptive action from HQ. Maw fires its ability, trashes a card, and it passes back over to SSO. I still think ultimately, though, the stim hack run here was kind of wasted. It didn't force the Corp to spend any money other than a single credit, and she didn't get any new information because she already knew what this those two pieces of ice were because of Gingergrid. Professional Contacts hits the table after a sure gamble from Smoke. That's going to help with draw and money. SSO still milking this Hollywood renovation by keeping it face up on the table here, allowing themselves to fire off their ID ability, putting agenda counters everywhere. They beanstalk royalty? Now that's an interesting one. I mean, hey, money's money, right? SSO often can run very poor because their space ice is free to res. So they double advance Hollywood renovation. Are they considering keeping it on the table to super power up their ice wall? No, surely not. No, they just kept it around to put more advancement tokens on the ice on HQ. Smoke is going to be hard pressed now to break into places. She dirty laundries archives. Now she's going to be able to bypass any sentry for the credit off of her ID as well as the credit off of Mantle. And she is charging up that Netmerker by spending credits on the dirty laundry run. So good synergy there, doing what Smoke wants to do. Shexus is an underway renovation in archives. Kind of odd that SSO decided to pitch that. Oh no, they didn't decide to pitch that. Maw forced that as a trash. It also looked like Maw forced a trash on... Oh, mass commercialization. That hurts. That's SSO's money. They install a new card on the server. They revealed that with Jinja to be Surveyor. There's no need for that to have advancement tokens on it, so they go ahead and score the Hollywood renovation. Smoke runs HQ, but SSO is able to res all the space ice for free. Revealing the asteroid belt, barrier 6 strength. Penrose normally just is a decoder. I believe this is a bit of a misplay because Penrose shouldn't be able to break this. Oh, okay. He's not using Penrose to break it, just used it to charge up. Netmerker has another mantle installed, so plenty of stealth credits to work with. Goes in and runs R&D, and a Mazvingo is revealed. We're familiar with this one from that episode where Hernando Cortez did not fire to increase the cost of Mazvingo, and I looked it up. Apparently, that is the accurate way to play the game. Hernando Cortez does not increase the cost of ice that gain subroutines from their card text because they don't have the subroutines at the time of res. Anyway, so Mazvingo has 4 subs here. It looked like smoke just bounced off of it. SSO installs a card in archives, protecting archives rather. Installs a CityWorks project and hedge funds. Back over to Smoke, she desperately professional contacts. Finds her final SMC. Has the memory to do this because of Maw. I wonder if she'll find her barrier breaker. She does have an R&D interface on the table. That's an expensive piece of hardware. But maybe it'll pay off if she gets a good R&D lock going. Problem is, CityWorks is going to be sitting there taunting her. And she's going to have to spend at least 3 cards to seal it. 2 cards at its current state. You have to assume that SSO will triple advance at the next turn to make it that much harder to steal. Surveyor, we know this is a Surveyor here. So she could just spend 2 credits to bypass the Surveyor. Then she'd need enough credits to break the Ice Wall, in addition to the Wormhole. She runs R&D, hits the Mazvingo, and uses SMC to tutor for Corroder, spending her smoke credits and mantle credits to help break this, and getting to put a point on Netmerker. Overall, not too bad. This does tend to be how stealth breakers and smoke in general want to run, which is being able to get into places with very little real money. Gets into R&D. Accesses a card, doesn't steal or trash it, so I believe that's a condition, right? Do not steal or trash, yeah. So Maw trashes a card, accesses a second card, it's nothing. So she at least has a little bit of breathing room. She knows that the card the Corp just drew, as well as the card currently on the top of R&D, are not agendas. The Corp, not liking the R&D lock potential, puts a piece of ice on R&D, hedge funds, and advances CityWorks 1 more time, so now it's 3 meat damage to seal, and uses SSO's ability to put 3 more tokens on the R&D ice. Good chance Smoke knows what that ice is. She might have seen it during the R&D run. She dirty laundries archives, sees an ice wall. Only costs SSO a single credit to do that. It's going to be a 4 strength ice wall. Luckily, Mantle and Smoke credits should allow Smoke to do this fairly cheaply. Yeah, just 3 credits. And all of that coming for free from the recurring credits, plus Netmerker gets another free credit. Plus the money coming back off of Dirty Laundry. Hedge Fund, Sure Gamble. Putting Smoke up to 10. She's probably trying to gear up to get into that server to steal the CityWorks. In response, SSO dedication ceremonies the CityWorks. So it's going to take a whopping 6 meat damage to steal, now 7. They can't score it because of the dedication ceremony. So if Smoke wants this, she has to draw 2 cards, because Beth Kilrain gave her a draw. Or sorry, didn't give her a draw, but gave her a click. She's going for it. Oh, the Film Critic. She installs Film Critic. That's beautiful. Kind of shows that Smoke knew what she was doing. Shows a lot of forethought on the plan, on the part of the runner. I don't blame SSO at all for making this their game strategy. They thought, not seeing a film critic on the table, thought that they were going to make this very, very hard for Smoke to get into and steal and have to pay quite a few cards to do it. Film critic, of course, negates all of that, negates all of the tempo, all of the time that SSO spent boosting this City Works. They lost the 2 clicks and the 2 credits they spent to manually advance it, as well as the click they spent to install it, as well as the dedication ceremony card and effect. Smoke does bypass that Surveyor, pays 5 to break the ice wall, approaches the wormhole, and is able to break it with Penrose quite cheaply by boosting its strength a bunch using stealth credits, and then paying a single credit to break. Penrose very efficient at breaking code gates while you have those stealth credits to spend. So Smoke gets in there, hosts City Works on Film Critic, probably giggling to herself along the whole way. Decides not to trash the Jinja. I don't know, should she have trashed the Jinja? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe she doesn't intend to let the court have another agenda face up to add anything, to give anything on that server tokens. Yeah, because now she's going to run R&D for the potential R&D lock. But not before spending 2 clicks to add that City Works off of Film Critic to her score area. It is now 4-3. Running R&D, the unres piece of ice is an Oduduwa. Right. Oduduwa is a very weird piece of ice. It's very expensive to res. The real threat it contains is that it's very synergistic with any ice that benefits from advancement counters. So essentially, when the runner encounters it, the corp can put an advancement token on Oduduwa, and then they place advancement tokens on anything else that is ice, I believe it has to be ice, on ice, equal to the number of advancement tokens on Oduduwa. So they Corp went ahead and put 4 more advancements on Mazvingo. Very quickly, Mazvingo is going to become an unbreakable piece of ice. Smoke is able to get in by spending... Oh, wow. Is that it? Whoa. It's the government takeover. Alright, so Smoke was able to get in spite of the 8 subroutines on Mazvingo, and manages to see a government takeover. I guess that's the risk you run when you run government takeover. But imagine if you, what is it called? Casting call? If you casting called government takeover, which installs it face up, and then you used SSO's ability to put 6 tokens on things. That would be hilarious. Well, I didn't expect the game to end like that, but it isn't that surprising that it did go that route. Or rather, I should say, it is a logical conclusion to come to because the deck runs government takeover and the proper amount of points were scored. Let's do one more. Let's watch... We haven't seen any NBN today. We'll watch this one. Anarch vs. NBN. Val versus Controlling the Message. We're already a couple turns in. Stargate, running on R&D, reveals Banker Group, NazX, and Mamba Temple. Runner decides to trash NazX. I wonder if they're afraid of the... what's it called? Fully operational combo that NazX uses. They run normally on R&D and trash the Bankers Group manually, They also trashed the Mumba Temple manually. They just saw all the cards with star. Oh, okay. So they trashed NazX because it had the highest trash cost. And their plan was just to keep running R&D anyway. They had that one bad pub, and they went ahead and trashed Banker's Route for a credit, Mumba Temple for 2 credits, and then they found a Presec, which they trashed for 2 credits. There's that multiplicative value of bad publicity showing itself, effectively giving Val 3 extra credits on that turn. Val has nothing on her side of the table aside from a liberated account, which she is using to gain money. Now throws down an Earthrise Hotel. On the other side of the field, controlling the message does have a daily business show, as well as drudge work. So they're going to very much be able to filter out any unwanted agendas whenever they want to. A pad campaign, the humble pad campaign with another card in the server with it. That could either be a Prisec or a Mumbad Virtual Tour. Drudge work was used to shuffle Bologna into R&D. Another piece of ice enters the field on top of HQ, bringing the total on R&D and HQ up to 2 ice both. And a new card is installed in a new remote server. The score is currently 3-1, with false lead being on the side of controlling the message. That's scary. That means the hard-hitting news false lead combo is live. Val runs the new remote, turns out to be a calibration testing. She's going to trash that for a single credit due to her bad pub. Now the controlling the message trace fires. Val takes the tag, shakes the tag, clicks for 2 credits. She's trying to keep up a healthy amount of money in order to fight the hard-hitting news traces, as well as, should she get double economic warfared into hard-hitting news, still have enough credits to shake those tags manually. Controlling message reveals another agenda with drudge work, shuffling it into HQ or R&D and gaining 3 credits. That's the last we'll see of drudge work. Relying completely on daily business show now to filter those agendas out of HQ if wanted, or filter them in when wanted. Val's going to rebirth, pretty standard in Val. Almost always should run that single copy of rebirth in any Val deck. Who's she going to become? I'd say Omar is a good guess. No. Oh, Alice Merchant? Okay. Also respectable. Alice Merchant. Probably no. I can see the logic behind this. Alice Merchant. Every time you run archives, the corp trashes a card from HQ, and the reason. Oh wow! And they get to choose. The corp chooses, right? Yeah, they choose the card that's trashed, I believe, and they chose to trash false lead. And I really respect this play, not going for Omar, because what this is going to do is this is going to allow Alice to get rid of those cards that she's actually afraid of, which are going to be things like hard-hitting news, basically hard-hitting news, or potentially the economic warfare. Whereas if she's Omar, she has to run archives, go into HQ, then pay the trash cost of whatever she wants to trash if it's an asset, and if it's a event, she can't do anything. Whereas with Alice Merchant, now she's trashing those cards in HQ, those valuable events, those things that the corp wants to keep in hand. Now she does play a hacktivist meeting, so it's going to be that much harder for the corp to res assets. She does stim hack archives, using that stim hack money to trash the Mumbad Virtual Tour that was installed on archives, as well as fighting the controlling the message trace, essentially reading, take 1 brain damage, get rid of Mumbad Virtual Tour, and ignore NBN's ID ability this turn. She also accesses the card that the corp was forced to trash, which is that last false lead. Corp drawing up 2 cards and figuring out which one they want to choose thanks to Daily Business Show. I'm sure they wish they had some ice to put on archives. They install a card, draw a card, minor problem with the order of that. They should have drawn and then chosen to install. They install their next new card, because at this point, any card in HQ is a liability. Alice responds by immediately running the face down card, and it is an SSL. And that's just a rough place to be for the Corp. I've never seen controlling the message get their butt handed. I shouldn't say never, but it's been quite a while since I've seen controlling the message get their butt handed to them like that. Oh, insult to injury. This Alice also runs Apocalypse, apparently. Yikes. Heavy stuff. Definitely think the swap to Alice Merchant was a much better call than what I was predicting as the swap to Omar. And it certainly paid off. Got her those 2 false leads. I mean, I guess Omar would have gotten those false leads anyway. Is kind of the thing. Because the effect would have been exactly the same. Omar would have ran in here, ran into HQ, and still gotten the cards. But I'm a little confused why the Corp didn't... Yeah, so you know how I said it was a breach in order, like a small problem where the Corp... The most recent turn the Corp took was they mandatory drew, they installed this card, they drew, and then installed a new card. And they certainly shouldn't have installed this card before drawing, because what they would have done, due to the series of events, we know that the card they drew was the SSL. So what they did is on clicks 2 and 3, they drew the SSL and then installed the SSL. And this is why click order matters so much, because if instead of installing this card from server 5 first, they had drawn a card first, they would have seen the SSL and realized, oh shoot, I need to have extra cards in hand. And in fact, on the second click when they drew the SSL, they probably shouldn't have installed it. They probably should have just kept drawing. What they should have done is not installed this card in server 5, they should have just drawn, seen the SSL, and drawn 2 more times. Because they know Alice Merchant is going to run. They know Alice Merchant is going to run into archives. They know they're going to need to feed Alice 1 card of their choice out of HQ. And probably what they were really hoping to find was some ice to put on archives. They had the money to use it. And Alice had money, but not all the money in the world, right? I mean, I guess it's rough, though, because you've only seen 1 stim hack. You know there's a second one on the way. Probably. You do see the Apocalypse trash, though, so that's 3 influence down, but you haven't seen enough influence in the bin to make the hard call that you're safe yet from Apocalypse, depending on how many Apocalypse that she runs. Oh well. Well, I think that's it for today. That was quite a long one, but I had a generous amount of time to go over things. Thank you for watching. It certainly was fun to see what in the world are people doing with Netrunner today. I did enjoy some of the older formats, and it definitely seems like the community in general is much less competitive these days. And that's probably just largely because all the people who take the game really seriously don't have anything to latch onto anymore. The game doesn't change as fast as it used to. There aren't new packs coming out every month. There aren't new box sets every 3 months and things like that. So in general, the community tends to be filled with a lot more casual players, and that's not a bad thing. In fact, it certainly means that if you're on the fence as to whether or not you feel like you're unsure as to whether or not you want to get back into Netrunner, now is a great time to do it, because the community's a lot less competitive, so you being rusty isn't going to matter so much. At any rate, I always love analyzing games, seeing what people are trying, and I had fun. I hope you had fun as well, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one in the wonderful world of Netrunner.